It is with great pride and excitement that we introduce Pinnacle 2025, the flagship business summit of IIM Sirmaur. Built on the theme Ticket, with carefully curated panel discussions spanning critical domains such as marketing, finance, and human resources, this summit will provide invaluable insights, networking opportunities, and strategic perspectives to help students and professionals navigate an ever-evolving business landscape. Today, as we engage in these insightful conversations and knowledge-sharing sessions, let us challenge existing paradigms, embrace innovation, and collectively shape a future that is bold, dynamic, and impactful. Welcome to Pinnacle 2025, where we decode today's trend to build tomorrow's success. I would also like to take a moment and thank our title sponsor, Central Bank of India. Pinnacle is co-sponsored by State Bank of India and Zomato, and the event is powered by Unstop.
To mark the auspicious occasion of Pinnacle 2025, we now invite all our esteemed guests and respected faculty members to join us on stage for a lamp lighting ceremony. The lighting of lamps symbolizes knowledge, wisdom, and dispelling of darkness, setting the tone for an enlightening and insightful summit ahead. We request our distinguished speaker and faculty members to kindly come forward and grace the stage for a ceremonial moment. I request all guests to kindly come forward and grace the stage.
You should.
Now, to formally inaugurate Pinnacle 2025, we invite Professor Karthikeyan Balakumar, Chairperson of Placements at IIM Sirmaur, to deliver the inaugural address. Sir, we look forward to your words of wisdom and insight.
Hello everyone. Good morning. So good morning, sir, has become a chorus to which every faculty member rises up and answers. Thank you so much for being here on a Sunday. I know it's been very difficult considering the winter and everything. The guests, thank you so much for being here. The entire team, IRS, Placecom, TNT, everyone who is supporting. Thank you for being there to support the entire venture. I did not come with a prepared speech, so I'm going to have to say something from my heart. So let me just begin. Right? We have lots of guests here who are with us, who are from different institutes across Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And I think we should start with the story of IIM Sirmaur. In 2015, IIM Sirmaur was set up as an institute by Act of Parliament. And for 10 years, this institute has been here. And even today, if you were to go around Sirmaur and just have a look at the boards which are there, you'll be very quick to realize that there is no consistent spelling for Sirmaur. You will see that Sirmaur is written as S-I-R-M-O-R-E, M-A-U-R, M-O-U-R, yeah, and you will see that there are lots of inconsistencies in spellings. Kind of points to the fact that we've not really understood who we are and have not really defined an identity for ourselves. And this identity is something that's very important. Sirmaur has a very, very rich heritage, and there's been a history here. There have been kings who lived in this particular district. The palaces and castles are very close by in Nahan. And if you've had the good fortune of going around Sirmaur, you will know that this place has so many stories to tell. And it is these stories that we wanted to embody when we said last year, calling it the spirit of Sirmaur. Because we want to stand for something, and we want to stand for camaraderie. We want to stand for integrity and sincerity. And I think over the last few years, you've seen IIM Sirmaur has slowly and steadily started emerging on a global stage. Today, IIM Sirmaur has close to 10 different programs which are run on physical as well as digital media. And we have been launching newer programs which are very, very industry relevant. And these programs have you at the heart of it. In fact, one of the students today in the morning, they came to me and they were talking to me. One of the other students who came and spoke to me. He said, why are you not talking about AI? And it just struck me because AI is such a hyped up thing that everyone's been talking about, but it's still very much in the future. What's current and what's relevant is what we should really be talking about, and that's what Pinnacle is all about. Today, we've planned for you 3 interesting panels. The marketing panel is going to be talking about the rise of quick commerce and how it's disrupting the entire FMCG space and the entire e-commerce space. This is something that we read about in the news on a daily basis. And if you've been following any form of news outlet, even the popular press like Times of India or Indian Express, you will be very quick to realize that there is a lot of disruption that's happening in the quick commerce front. Many companies today are entering the fray. Reliance and Tata have also joined. And today you will be seeing a huge shift in consumer behavior, mimicking very closely what happened in the e-commerce space 10-15 years ago in quick commerce. And that's something that needs to be discussed. Because as young students who are just walking into the industry, in 1-2 years you will all be joining the industry, you will be faced with this reality. So this was a relevant topic that we wanted to talk about. And then in finance, we're talking about the rise of new investment opportunities. We are noticing that fixed deposits are losing their sheen, and more and more individuals are now looking at alternative investment opportunities. And for many of you, as soon as you start working in the corporate world, you will start realizing that savings is a very important part of life, and you need to have some key takeaway for you. And that particular conversation is going to be around that. That we're going to talk about what are the new investment opportunities that are available, what are the fundamental logics that are behind that, and are there some assumptions and ideas that we really have to challenge. That's the second topic that we're talking about. And the third topic that we're going to talk about is human resources, and specifically with relevance to Gen Z. There's this interesting idea called revenge quitting. A lot of people today, they decide to join an organization and then they want to get back at the organization. And you could be that person who wants to get back. But you have to understand that as much as you are an individual, you're also part of an organization. Which means while you think you're doing something revolutionary, you also have to understand that the organization is something that is more than any single person. And therefore the organization's perspective also has to be heard. And this platform, we hope, is a venue where that can be discussed. We have excellent panelists who all happily and graciously agreed to be here with us. I would love to welcome each and every one of you for being here with us today. I know it has been such a difficult journey. Many of you have traveled almost a day to be here with us for just a few hours. There is a story I keep telling in class, and I will just repeat it once for the benefit of everyone again. There is this concept in economics called signaling, and any signal has value only if there is a cost associated with it. So I keep telling them, peacock's plumage, a large peacock with a large plumage is considered to be a suitable mate because it has been moving around with that plumage and has not been killed by some animal yet. It means that handicap has created a signal. And Sirmaur, the location where we are, the place where we are from, and the kind of access to industry that we have has all been a handicap. And the fact that we're still standing today signals the quality of commitment that we have towards high quality education. And we're very happy to have you here, and we want to keep growing in the years to come, and we would very, very much love for you to be part of that journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Karthikeyan sir, for your inspiring words and for setting the tone for Pinnacle 2025. Your insights have provided us with a valuable perspective as we embark on this journey. So now we are starting with our first panel, that is the marketing panel. So I request all the judges all the panelists of marketing panel to be seated in the stage. And I will also like to welcome the moderator for the panel, Professor Karthikeyan sir. And I also request sir to welcome everyone with the bouquets. For the first panel, we have Mr. Rohit Gulati sir, and Mr. Abhishek Gupta, and Mr. Harshit Shah, and then Mr. Karthik.
It is our privilege to welcome Mr. Rohit Gulati, Director of Marketing, India and South Asia at Johnson & Johnson to Pinnacle 2025. With his extensive experience in marketing, strategy and commercial leadership, he has played a key role in driving innovation and growth in the consumer healthcare industry. His expertise in crafting impactful marketing strategies and navigating evolving consumer trends makes him an invaluable addition to today's discussion. We are honored to have him with us and look forward to gaining insights from his vast experience. Welcome to IIM Sirmaur, sir.
We are honored to welcome Mr. Abhishek Gupta, Chief Marketing Officer at Edelweiss Life Insurance to Pinnacle 2025. With a wealth of experience in brand strategy, digital transformation and customer-centric marketing, Mr. Gupta has played a pivotal role in shaping the marketing landscape of the financial services sector. His expertise in driving impactful campaigns and leveraging data-driven insights makes him a valuable addition to today's discussion. Sir, we are delighted to have you with us and look forward to gaining valuable perspective from your experience.
We welcome Mr. Harshit Shah, DGM, Digital and Media at Pinnacle Consumer Healthcare to Pinnacle 2025. With extensive experience in digital marketing, brand management and media strategy, Mr. Shah has been instrumental in driving impactful marketing initiatives and consumer engagement strategies. His expertise in leveraging data-driven insights to enhance brand visibility and consumer outreach is truly commendable. Sir, We are honored to have you with us today and look forward to learning from your insights and experience.
We are delighted to welcome Mr. Karthik Padya, Senior Director, Business Growth at ShareChat, to Pinnacle 2025. With a wealth of experience in digital strategy, business growth, and market expansion, Mr. Padya has played a pivotal role in scaling businesses and driving user engagements in the dynamic world of social media and content platforms. His expertise in leveraging data-driven insights to drive sustainable growth makes him a valuable addition to today's discussion. Sir, we are honored to have you with us and eagerly look forward to your insights.
Now, I would like to introduce our moderator for this panel, Professor Karthikeyan Balakumar. He's a seasoned academic and expert in technology, innovation, and strategic leadership. With a strong background in research and industry collaboration, he brings insightful analysis to a balanced perspective to complex discussions. As a moderator, Dr. Balakumar ensures engaging, structured, and thought-provoking conversations that drive meaningful insights and impact.
Over the next 1 hour, our panel of industry experts will dive into the disruptive impact of quick commerce, followed by a 30-minute question and answer session where you will have the opportunity to engage with the esteemed panelists. I also request the team to upload the slides so that we can start with the discussion.
Before we start the panel discussion, the idea was to just set the context. And thank you guys for, as Karthik said, being here on a Sunday to listen to all of us. What we will try and do is dissect the quick commerce for all of you. So when I landed yesterday, I started putting up a few slides for the evening. I was really tired. I was telling Karthik that I actually made the slides at 12 o'clock in the night, and I called up Ashwati here and said, have you downloaded the slides? The idea was to just give you guys something. I'm a big believer of data. Okay, so the idea is to first start off with, let's see some data before we actually start discussing the topic of quick commerce. And as MBA students, I always encourage and tell this to most of the students that it's the data which is the most important thing. So as marketeers, you should always look at data first. What does the data say? So let's look at some of the data. I'm going to flash you in the 3-4 slides some data, and we'll then start the discussion after that. So if you look at the evolution, the first part of the picture, the infographic, which is earlier versus now, the number of SKUs where the quick commerce actually started was as less as 4,000 to 5,000. Today it has boomeranged to 25 to 30,000 SKUs. And we'll come to that, right? Average size of a dark store. The dark stores, I hope everybody understands what's a dark store. So there's a warehouse, there are dark stores, and then they supply to all of us, right? The size of the dark store was 2,500 square feet. Now the dark store, the size has ballooned to around 4,000, right? The average order value, if you see Grofers, if everybody remembers Grofers, right? So Grofers, when it started, the average order value which they were getting was around 200 to 250. Today their order value, and Grofers has become Blinkit now, right? And Blinkit has been purchased by Zomato, right? So the average order value has gone to around 300 to 500, and this is an important point, the average order value, because this defines what's coming into the month, right? If you look at the ad income, right, the ad income has also gone. Previously there were less ads, now there are more ads, right? So the ad income is also coming. And if you look at the market size, Karthikeyan was talking about the e-commerce market when he started off, right? If you see the whole space of retail market, where is the e-commerce market, and inside the e-commerce market is the quick commerce market. If you see, I don't know whether everybody is able to see that number at the bottom. 2020, I'll tell you, 2023 is 2.8 and it is going to $22 billion in 2027. That's the scale of quick commerce, right? Which we all are going to see, and as set up rightly, and that's why you see everything in the newspapers, that quick commerce is the future. Everybody wants to move inside quick commerce. All the latest brands want to sell inside quick commerce today, right? So we will talk about some business models also today. What are the various business models which are coming up in quick commerce? On the right side is Zepto funding. Zepto has a young co-founder, very famous. He talks about cars also now on, have you heard about the advertising on cars? Right? He talks about Skoda bhi bech sakte hain hum quick commerce mein 10 minutes mein. Right? So that's the kind of future which India is going to see in the near future. Dark stores count have drastically gone up, as you can see the numbers here. Zepto, Blinkit, Swiggy, Big Basket now, their numbers have gone up, right? Can you go to the next slide, please? Just remember this word GMV. This is called as gross merchandise volume. This is how the volumes are measured on an online scale, on an online platform. That's how it's measured. If you see the numbers, 2021 was when it got launched. That means quick commerce got launched around that time. It was only $0.1 billion. If you see it stabilized, and then COVID came in at this time. This is where from 21 to 22 you see a jump. 23 it started getting more traction. If you see in 24 it has more than quadrupled. Right. So this is where we are seeing a huge jump in the growth of quick commerce. If you can see the revenue of Blinkit also, these are latest. I didn't get at 12 o'clock in the night the 24 numbers, but if you see the 23 numbers, 724 crores revenue, and they would have touched in 24 close to 1,000 plus, with an EBITDA of 1,000 crores. That is a very, very profitable business, right? If you look at the P&L, the leveraged P&L, it is very, very profitable. Market share wise, Blinkit is leading, followed by Swiggy, and then you have Zepto. But Zepto, the way it is growing in tier 3 and tier 4 markets, will definitely catch on to the bigger players. Yeah, can you go to the next slide, please? See, it's important for you to understand as marketing students the unit economics, right? What has changed from 2022 to 2024? That is very, very important, right? The store size, as I said, is increasing, but I've kept it nearly the same here. But if you look at the number of orders per day, 600 to 1,000. Average order value has gone up, right? The total orders value per month has drastically gone up. Gross margin is the most important thing. Please remember, now profitable products are getting sold on this platform, right? So they're also selling iPhones. They're also planning to sell many other things, jewelry, everything. Right, so more profitable products are going to get sold. That is where the huge difference in the gross margins. Delivery cost has gone up because the scale has increased. Salary of workers have gone up a little bit. Utility costs nearly the same. So if you look at the P&L account, 2022 they were in negative and they are currently in positive from the unit economic scale, keeping everything fixed, the other things fixed. I'm keeping the fixed costs as fixed. The technology costs as fixed, right? So this is kind of setting the context. One last slide before we move on. I will talk about it in my discussion. Can you go to the next slide, please? These are new models, and Karthik talked about it on the Geo platform. See, this is called as online to offline model. how does this work? What Jio is trying to do is, they have tied up with Kirana stores. So they are also a distributor, number one. So Reliance is a distributor, number one. Reliance is also sending their products to the Kirana store. So the Kirana store is also keeping those products. Branded label products. If you go to Mumbai, 50% of the Kirana stores are keeping label products of Jio. So it is like an offline online model. It's a win-win for them through the Kirana network. Through the Kirana network. It's an online offline model. It is not a pure online model, right? So these are new models which are setting the tone for the quick commerce in India, right? And I just wanted to set that stage for discussion by Karthikeyan to take it ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, sir. Such a wonderful introduction to quick commerce. So, one of the things that we keep, so most of them are marketing students, and one of the things that marketing we teach them is that to understand marketing, you first have to understand consumer behavior. And if we really look at the history of retailing, and we go back, say, 100 years, and then pre-Walmart era, and just look at how retailing as a phenomena has happened, you will see that every new technology that was created, I'm calling Walmart also a technology because it has fundamentally transformed how the business of retailing happens, right? Every technology that has been introduced has significantly shifted consumer behavior. You see consumers not just making purchases at convenience stores, but now picking up a Ford pickup truck and driving all the way to Walmart at the end of the city, and then buying groceries and other supplies for a week or even a month, and then coming back. This has shifted how consumer behavior works, right? Walmart did that. In the 1990s, 2000s, e-commerce did that. Amazon was able to do that. Flipkart has done that in India. And today, all of a sudden, we're looking at quick commerce that's also shifting consumer behavior. So one of the questions that really kind of intrigues me, and it is something that the students have also echoed in the past, is because of this shift, you are kind of amplifying certain types of consumer behaviors while muting certain other types of behaviors. For example, the kind of urgency that we have to make a purchase has never been the same. Right? Now, in the past, it was possible for us to wait for a month to go and pick up something. It became easier to purchase, it's become less, and now all of a sudden you're saying within 10-15 minutes you will have whatever product you desire, subject to certain constraints, of course, at your doorstep. How do you see this consumer behavior change playing out? Because there's only so much of urgency that a consumer can have. You think about it and then it teleports itself in front of you is probably the Jetsons type thing that can happen. How do you see this impacting industry? Because now, and this is what I am hypothesizing, consumer choice is no longer celebrated. Because now you are programming the choice to be within certain constraints. As people who are product managers, as people who are creating new products, You are saying you shall not think beyond these things. We will only provide you what is quick to be provided. Good set of SKUs, profitable ones. But then if someone wants to come in and do something different, right, that option to grow no longer exists because you have to operate at a certain scale to succeed in quick commerce. And number two, if you want a certain variety in your product or configure it in a certain way, that goes off, which means you're standardizing to such an extent that you kind of iron out all the heterogeneity. And you're saying we want you all to be very similar in terms of your taste and preferences. And I would call it the McDonaldification of the world. Saying everyone needs to have the same thing, and we will give you that one. I just wanted to hear your first round of thoughts on these ideas. Ask this one.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. First of all, wonderful to be here in the Himalayan IM. Thanks for having me. And thanks, Rohit, also for setting up the context of e-commerce really well. And probably I have a contra view to what you just said. And let me kind of lay out the framework for that. See, when brands and marketers think, they always think consumer backwards. Saying, where is my consumer today? Where is his attention? And then how do we build our products, our services, our apps around where the consumer is, right? So you always start consumer backwards and go from there. Of course, over the decades, consumer preferences and behaviors have evolved dramatically, right? So first it was large format retails, modern trade, which was a disruption in the retail space. Then it became e-commerce about a decade and a half back. And today it's quick commerce, right? Which is trying to disrupt even e-commerce within quick commerce, right? But I think what's interesting is that if you look at e-commerce, right, which is probably a well understood phenomena by people in this audience, the disruption that quick commerce did is that in e-commerce there are three axes in which you play. There is pricing, there is selection, and there is service. These are the three axes that you have for a consumer, right? Quick commerce came in and said that I will cut selection to such an extent that I will give you these three products, these five products, but it will come to you in 10 minutes, right? Now, when you have standardization to that extent, if you want a non-standardized experience/product, you have to pay a premium, right? Which means then the pricing lever gets activated, which is to say that if you want something in a different shade, in a different color, which is not available standard stock from your quick commerce SKUs, then you have to pay a much higher, let's say, charge, or you can also put it like you pay a much higher convenience fee or a much higher charge for that same SKU to come to you within that period in time, right? My macro take on this is that consumer behavior is going to continue to evolve, right? And a large part of the last decade and a half evolution has happened largely because of the internet proliferation and smartphone penetration that's happened. Not just in tier 1, 2, but also in 3, 4, 5, right? Which means that it's not that brands were not trying to nudge consumers earlier. So for example, think about a retail store layout, right? You always had impulse categories at checkout. Why was that? That was to nudge people to buy, let's say, chocolates, confectionery at your checkouts, right? A similar thing is now playing out online, right? You are creating flash sales saying that, hey, 10-minute countdown before pricing goes off. Or you're trying to create coupon codes to encourage, conversion at the last mile, right? So these levers of nudging consumer behavior have basically transported themselves from the offline retail environment and gone completely online, right? So those nudges will continue to be there. Marketers will continue to try and use levers to kind of nudge people to shape and evolve their consumer choices and preferences. But I also feel that what's also going to play out is that there's a lot of consumer behavior that is not very predictable. For example, Big Basket has been at a version of quick commerce for a long time. Amazon has tried and failed, Flipkart tried and failed grocery, and now they're re-entering because of seeing success of, let's say, Instamart and Zepto and Blinkit, right? So it's not a very easy model to scale, right? Like it's a very hard model to scale because you need demand density, you need riders, and you need that, enough amount of distance, like so only a 1.5 or 2 kilometer radius can be serviced. So you need enough amount of demand in those demand pockets, and you need those dark store density to be there, right? So I think the way to think about this for brands is basically to continuously see where the consumer traction is, and then kind of take a call basis, where is my consumer, and hence that's where I need to be. See, one of the largest advantage that these platforms have is that because of the data that they are seeing, saying that, hey, these micro pockets are seeing these kind of traction for, let's say, this in electronics, let's say in iPhone electronics, right? Then those are the stock keeping units that they need to keep, right? So they can get smarter about it using, let's say, data and the buzzword AI. But having said that, I think it's continuously trying to understand the consumer, trying to understand where the consumer is going, and then kind of create products and services backwards.
Audible? Is this okay? People at the back? Cool. Thank you so much, and thanks for that prelude, and thanks, Rohit. That was a great starting point. In fact, I was thinking what am I going to talk about? Some of these are already covered in the slides. No, just kidding. So, I'll give you a couple of senses from what we have seen in our organization, right? And we are like heavily reliant on quick commerce. One thing, right? And in terms of purely the business contribution. Now, obviously, some of the numbers cannot be revealed, but 3 years back, we were really riding high on the wave of D2C. We were thinking, hey, you know what, D2C is the way to go. We need first-party data. Let's focus on getting as many consumers into the foray, we market to them, build a funnel, loyalty funnel, etc. The biggest shift, at least that we have seen in the last 2 years, is the whole path to purchase for the consumer. That's right. There is no longer research, discovery, and then eventually arriving at 3 options, and then finally shortlisting an option, adding a product to the cart, waiting for a discount coupon to come in. Right? That whole thing is completely been knocked off. The way we have seen it, I think quick commerce for us in the last 2 years becomes so critical. It's almost like as big as any other, the large marketplaces that we have in the ecosystem, right? So what we've seen is one, yes, and most of our products are into the CPG, FMCG space, right? So we talk about Lactic Calamine, which is a beauty brand, or a Littles, which is a baby care brand. Like most of these products will have a very strong quick com linkage, so to say. So one habit that at least we have seen in our ecosystem is the path to purchase, and we look at a lot of research data, right, on all these 3 platforms, Instamart, Zepto, and all 3 actually behave a little differently. It's not that they all have a very similar algorithm. So when you search on Blinkit, you see results coming up instantaneously. You search on Zepto, Zepto gives you recommendation and then gives you results. Instamart is a little different from that lens as well. So look at the search behavior and then try and predict, and again, as a marketer, you can't have your entire basket there. We can't have a spray of 500 SKUs present on this quick com platform. They're very picky about the products. So marrying that search data, looking at the path to purchase, and then eventually deciding how we as marketers can really be present on these platforms. But that's one big consumer behavior shift that we have seen. Second is, and this is debatable and would love to hear everyone's thought, is does the concept of loyalty exist? It would definitely for certain very big brands. For example, J&J will have a huge loyalty loop. But with so many D2C brands in so many of these categories like your baby care, personal care space, we've also seen a lot of this loyalty actually going out of the window, right? The consumer cares about convenience, they care about the loyalty from the platform, not from the brand. Broadly decent product experience and a great value prop. I think that is good enough for them to, shift the brands. They're no longer, hey, you know what, I've been using Colgate for the longest time, I'm going to continue using Colgate. It's an example, right? No name calling brands here. But that's what we have seen at least in the category that we operate, in the categories that we have seen, right? So the whole path to purchase and the loyalty, I mean, these are the 2 major factors that we have seen evolve significantly. In fact, 2 years back, we were talking about Amazon, Flipkart, and D2C. Now, quick commerce has actually become the buzzword of sorts, right? So, that's what we have seen.
Good morning, everyone. It's very strange. I'm talking about quick commerce, and I come from a business where a sale takes at least 5 to 6 meetings. A lot of advisory sale that happens. So I'm not sure whether I'm qualified enough to talk about quick commerce or not. So let me go into my previous job. I started my career with Shopper Stop. At that time, Shopper Stop, and this was late 90s, Shopper Stop was the only or the first departmental store in the country. So when we were part of Shopper Stop, we were thinking, now since we have pioneered the organized retail as far as apparel was concerned, those mom and pop stores which were selling apparels, कि आप जाके वो कपड़ा ऐसे खोल के आता था, all those, I think probably that will be a thing of past because that's how consumers will evolve, and we would be at the forefront of those revolutions. That did not happen. Departmental stores came up, but mom and pop stores, or as we call in trade as GT, general trade, that existed and that's flourished. That still commands a lion's share, more than 80% of the market. Move ahead, this was around 2008-2009. I joined Walmart India when Walmart was starting. And it was about doing the same thing, modern retail, but under a food and grocery scenario. Now, food and grocery market is completely dominated by general trade, completely. The same Kirana store that you are going to buy, the generations are going to buy and they continue to buy. That person knows your family in and out, knows the preferences of each and a member of the family. That's how this business works. And we came in, and we were not the only one at that time. There were a lot of, Big Bazaar was there, DMart was starting, a lot of other players, Weeksha at that time used to be there, a lot of players were there. All of us were thinking that probably with this coming in, over a period of time, people will start moving from general trade to modern trade because it was a no-brainer. You are offering a full choice, you are offering a fairly much better shopping environment, you are offering a service levels, you are offering quick checkouts, you are offering so many things. So it was a no-brainer that probably modern retail will take over mom and pop retail or GT. That did not happen. Modern trade existed. A lot of modern trades closed, including the company that I used to work for, but the reason was very different. The two partners could not work together. But otherwise the business was thriving. But at the point I'm making, a general trade still survived and still was doing pretty well. I see the similar scenario taking out now. E-commerce is there. E-commerce, obviously general trade again thriving. Now we have come to quick commerce. Yes, from a consumer behavior perspective, there has been quite a shift where currently I'm talking from quick commerce purely from a food and grocery perspective, and I'll come to the other categories later. Most of the purchases from the Kirana were also happening a lot of top-ups that we do. So घर में कुछ खरीदा था and suddenly कुछ कम हो गया, call up the neighborhood retailer, he will send, or just go over there and that person will send. That behavior, which was also a substantial business of the Kiranas, got impacted by quick commerce. Because जब घर में कुछ खत्म होगा, कुछ चाहिए, वो immediately चाहिए. उसके लिए you are not able to wait. And that is how the quick commerce were able to get its foothold inside. And over a period of time, as the consumer got used to it, they started expanding the category. It's typically how a modern retail works. Get the customer in through fruits and vegetables. You don't make money on fruits and vegetables. But because the customer is coming in through fruits and vegetables, then get the customer used to shopping for all other higher margin products. That's what quick commerce is playing. But even if we see today the chart that Rohit, that you had shown, the size of the pie which is growing, with quick commerce growing within the e-commerce vertical. But if you looked at the larger circle, which was the general trade, in spite of a larger base, general trade is also going to go double. So India is a unique market where all of these businesses will continue to thrive. So don't ever, for new students coming in, don't ever think that quick commerce is going to replace. Quick commerce is not going to replace the modern trade. Quick commerce is not going to replace the general trade. What it is going is, it is going to expand the market. The consumption will go up. With financial freedom coming in early, with more money in the hands of the consumers, the consumption will go up, and this benefit of consumption will go to all the three sectors. So therefore, just don't look at quick commerce just with that lens. Everything is going to grow, and everything is going to go probably at the same rate. Yes, quick commerce is the buzzword. In 2008, when I was into modern retail was the buzzword. Yeah, modern retail aa gaya, kuch nahi hoga. When I was in 99 Shoppers Stop, at that time, modern retail in terms of department store was the buzzword. These buzzwords will come, these buzzwords will continue staying, and a new buzzword will come probably 4 or 5 years down the line. But our India, thankfully, we work in a country and we will work in a country which will offer huge opportunities for us.
I'll pick it up from where you left. So he absolutely nailed it because there is no buzzword. And I'll tell you about a buzzword which all of you would have listened few years back, blockchain. Everybody has heard? Has it become big? No. Are there any solid use cases? Solid use cases, only a few here and there. So please remember these buzzwords will come and go. That is absolutely true. The pie is growing, right? Everywhere. India consumption story is growing, right? That means all sectors are going to grow up. I'll start with saying why density, which Karthik, population, which Karthik talked about, the dark stores which can be placed at the right optimum distance. You get cheap labor in India, right? So all that plays a part in the unit economics, right? Coming to the consumer side, that why the consumer preferences are changing so drastically, whether we will have a mix, whether there will be some people. So I think what all of you should also understand is the various scenarios of consumers in India. So we started with the millennials and baby boomers, millennials, we have Gen Zs and we have Gen Alpha, Gen Beta. What do the Gen Zs want today? They just want to order quickly, right? My daughter is a Gen Z, so by the time I order on Blinkit, or she orders on Blinkit, by the time we go to another room, the order is already there. Because for them, it's not about the cost, it's about the speed, the convenience. They're not looking at the cost. And that is why the Blinkits of the world are able to put more costly items, because they know that this consumer values convenience. This consumer values speed over cost. That's why they are targeting. And so this is an AI session as well, right? Why? Why would I say so? There is an algorithm at the back end, which Blinkit has, which is looking at buying patterns, right? Which is looking at which consumer has bought, which kind of price, which kind of order value over a period of time. So they also look at very clearly that where our sales is going to grow, how our sales is going to grow, which labels are helping them grow. And it is the Gen Zs which are causing this change. If you remember when Myntra and everybody came up, I saw a case where, and I read somewhere that, the Gen Zs are the people who will go on to the cart, they will purchase the item, they will not exit it. That means they will just purchase it, right? Put it in the cart, but after some time they will change their mind because they are looking at various other platforms as well. Or they will purchase and they will again ask the item to be, especially in fashion and apparel, they will ask the item to be taken back. And this causes a lot of problems. So it's the consumers, type of consumers in India which are changing, and hence the consumer preferences are changing. It's important to understand this generation as well. It's not that they're all bad. You go to HR guys will say, and I think the Gen Z session is there, I'm not going to steal. I was talking to HCL, one of HCL's global HR heads, and he was telling, Gen Zs are not always bad. हमने ऐसा बना रखा है. You read everything and you would see Gen Zs are bad, Gen Zs are bad. It's not that. There are a lot of good things also in Gen Zs. Yes, they are a little defocused. Yes, they are a little impulsive, and that's why they get targeted on these platforms. But there are a lot of good things in Gen Zs as well, right? So I think I looked at a lot of things. But to end with, since I'm a healthcare guy, I would talk about healthcare a little bit here. See, medicines are the next thing of Blinkit. So today medicines are available online on PharmEasy, on NetMeds, but now they're looking at medicines as well on the platform. The problem with the medicines is that you need proper storage, right? If it's not stored properly, then you will be in a problem because there are authorities who are looking at what kind of storage conditions you've kept. If there are vaccines, they have to be stored at a very low level, because transportation also has to be good for vaccines. But they are looking at this because the vaccine costs are very high. So their average order value will go. But do they have that kind of storage, that kind of conditions to be kept? The answer is no today. And there are regulatory parts which come in medicines and some of the small medical devices as well. So that part will also play, but everybody wants to get inside now, right? And the hype is just a hype, right? Where will it go? It is going to quadruple, as we showed you some numbers earlier. But everything is going to grow. You should be able to encash upon the opportunity which is there, rather than say this is the only opportunity in India today. Yeah.
Thank you for that. A very, very interesting first round. I kind of agree with what you had to say, Mr. Patrick. It's not exactly a contra opinion to say that quick commerce is going to go ahead and shift consumer behavior and the way we were thinking. See, from where I look at it, and this is just an academic's viewpoint, right? Every time when these technologies had come in and then there was this complete shift that happened, right? One way to say it is the technology introduced itself, therefore consumer behavior changed. And the other way is what the two of you were also trying to say. Consumer behavior was changing and then a technology found the space there for it, which is what I'm theorizing. Now, if we were to just take a step back and just look at e-commerce, which is the closest thing that we have to learn for, in terms of quick commerce. E-commerce did not grow on its own. E-commerce grew on the back of a lot of regulatory and financial support. Right? Now, I used to work for TTK, and at the time, 2014-15, consumer durables were the second largest, category which was being sold on e-commerce. The first largest being mobile phones and technology, computers, phones. That was the largest. There was a reason for this, because this is what sells. This is what sells in large values. The cost per kg is rather high. Therefore, it was possible for these two to actually pick up. Now, when the e-commerce revolution was just starting off, there was a lot of discussion about credit cards. There was a lot of discussion about EMIs. Debit cards came in and said, we will give you EMIs. And the financial industry fully supported it. Now, while we're all very happy to talk about e-commerce growing and having become what it is today, the silent success story has been that of finance. It was a finance story where it was possible for financial institutions to step in and say, we will protect your money. We will ensure that your interests are still protected. And consumer protectionism was really working. Now, in case of quick commerce, is there such a story that is also happening? Because from where I look at it, and this is only something that an academic will be able to see a few years later after the data is presented itself. But you are there within the industry and you're watching this happening every day. Is there some sort of regulatory or other industry support that could help quick commerce become better? If not, is there something that you can shed light on?
So, Karthik, I think so Professor, I feel that it will play out a little differently in quick commerce versus e-commerce, right? And I think Rohit showed that chart very well, right? Like, if you look at the basket of quick commerce, it's actually fundamentally different from an e-commerce basket, even today, right? Today, if you look at, and I would encourage all students to look at the earnings call of Swiggy that happened last week and Blinkit that happened, I think, a while back. 90% of the quick commerce basket today is still FMCG and grocery. 90%. It's only 10% which is electronics. And the idea of getting electronics in the mix, as Rohit rightly pointed out, is to build up AOVs, to build up your average order value, and hence my take rates will make a good contribution margin on my P&L, right? Like that's the reason of getting electronics in the mix. One of the big reasons for fintech / UPI / credit card / buy now pay later becoming a big deal on e-commerce is simply because electronics was a very large part of the e-commerce mix, of the e-commerce basket. Today, an average order value on a Flipkart and Amazon is roughly about $2,000, $2,200. an average order value on quick commerce, like he showed. I think Blinkit's call said 650. On Instamart's about 550, right? So your ticket size on an average order is actually very different, simply because the basket constituents are very different, right? Now, to come back to your question, like what can actually favor these baskets to grow more, right? So you can do a couple of things, right? You can, of course, do category expansion. Now the problem is when you go into categories outside of, let's say, FMCG, foods, etc., right? And I'll just give one more data point before I complete this, is that Nestle, I think, came out with their data saying, so Nestle, Mondelez, all the foods businesses today have about 60-70% contribution of their digital sales to quick commerce. So e-commerce has gone down, quick commerce has gone up, simply because it's a food and an impulse category purchase. If you look at beauty, personal care, I think it's about 30-40%, right? Like at least Mamaearth report shared that. So it actually depends on which category you're playing in. As soon as you go into electronics, what happens is your weight to deliver that is obviously much higher, which means that you need larger that actually cater to that 2 kilometer, 1.5 kilometer radius to service the demand in 10-15 minutes. Now, what kind of regulatory support can actually fuel this growth? One is to make these hub and spoke models successful, just like the Geo example, is how can you partner with, let's say, a Kirana to double up as a dark store, right? And that's where you need a buy-in from the entire Kirana fraternity, right? Today, it's the other way that's happening, right? So just like e-commerce actually had this entire rule of, and this was also, it is said that there was a modern trade lobby against e-commerce, and hence you had that you can't have so much more than an X percentage sold by a single private label, so Cloudtail was formed and all of that stuff, right? A similar thing is on the works for quick commerce, right? With a lot of Kirana owners coming together and trying to push towards, because a lot of impulse purchase which was made at Kirana, the top-up purchase, is now going away from the Kirana and coming to quick commerce, right? So there is this active lobbying, quote unquote, that's happening, right? But I think the larger trend is, like he said, how do you partner with them? Like Jio already has that network, Tata has that network through Big Basket. But the point I'm making is, as an industry, how can quick commerce actually partner with Kirana so that those become your micro spokes to your hub or warehouses? And I think that will be one big one. The second piece is, and I think this is a very important one, is that we should all realize that the amount of labor that is gainfully employed as a result of these services, right? Today, if you look at delivery riders, whether it is Swiggy, Zomato, Zepto, Blinkit, etc., they are gainfully employing a very large percentage of people for this, the entire last mile commute and so on, right? So that's also kind of adding to the economy, because these people are now earning, right? And hence when they earn, they will spend, and that kind of fuels the virtuous cycle of the economy. So I think these two can really leverage and grow quick commerce in a very significant way. That's my view.
Thanks, Karthik. No, I kind of agree with what Karthik said. I just feel that there are a couple of categories also which could probably also help us fuel the growth of quick commerce. One is definitely your OTC and pharma drugs, right? I feel that's an important unlock that is waiting to happen. Again, since it's a closed room, I can share that we had one of the categories which is into contraceptives, right? When it is well regulated and guarded, the amount of response we saw on quick commerce was huge. Obviously, with the licenses and regulatory coming in, we had to kind of discontinue the product. But I feel that, if it's well regulated, if it's under control, and I think Rohit also touched upon it with the vaccines, but OTC and pharma can definitely help. Other thing I see is the penetration in the tier 2 is tier 3 cities and beyond, right? The whole dark store model is obviously very viable. I mean, at least they're now seeing it viable from the unit economic standpoint, from the metro or a mini metro perspective. But there's only as many dark stores you can add, right? Both Blinkit, Swiggy, both of them are at 1,000 odd. Flipkart Minutes is probably planning to add another 400 by this year's end. There's another 400, 500 from Zepto. And they're all actually now taking the funding to only fund their dark stores. But I feel that there's going to be a saturation somewhere in tier 2 and tier 3. At least tier 2 still has some scope, but tier 3, obviously, there's no like a very wide concept of dark stores. So is there a possibility, and I think he touched upon the whole concept of hub and spoke, probably that can help you fuel the journey further. So yes, these are the two aspects that I feel can help you though, to at least take the quick commerce to the next level. There are a lot of these unrelated categories like test drives, etc. Some of it may look good gimmicky, some of them can become big, we don't know. But I feel that quick commerce will at least have a very strong role in OTC and pharma drugs too. When regulated well, can have a good role to expand.
From a fintech perspective, I think going back to the behavior of the core customers of this category, which is Gen Z, basically these people are averse in dealing in cash. So whatever options which replaces cash, and there are ample which is available right now. So do I see a monumental shift in some other instrument coming? Possibility is no. What will happen is all of these instruments will start getting much more efficient. And probably over a period of time, develop a credit history for the Gen Z, allowing them to probably expand their credit portfolio. But if I look at other ways in terms of how will this category expand, this category is mimicking how e-commerce started and how e-commerce started expanding. Convenience, ordering at your doorstep, coming delivery at your doorstep, easy payment options. The only thing which currently the quick commerce has not been able to crack, but they have started to crack, is returns. Okay, currently most of the products in quick commerce are not eligible for returns, and therefore returns is something that is, it's a big confidence booster if you want to consumers to upspend. If you want consumers to move in for larger categories, for categories beyond food and grocery, the facility of, I'm not actually going to call just returns, the facility or the ability to have control in the hands of the consumer. The moment consumer starts to feel that I have the control in my hand, the confidence in the category and therefore the uptake of the category goes up. We have seen that happening in Uber, because Uber taxis are already there, but what Uber gave was a control in the hands of the consumer, not at the hands of the driver. Similarly, when Swiggy and Zomato came, the control was no longer with the restaurants. कि वो कब तक भेजेगा, भेजेगा नहीं भेजेगा. The control came in the hands of the consumer, or perceived control. Now the control moved from the restaurant to the platform, but consumer thought that I have the control. Similarly, in quick commerce, currently the feeling is that consumer says that I am not in control of what if I get and I have to give it back, which is not possible right now. The moment they are able to crack this, and they are already cracking it, they have started, Zepto has started a 10-minute return pickup as well. The moment they get more and matured in this market, this category will suddenly see another spot.
I think there needs to be some guardrails as the quick commerce industry overall grows. See, one of the things, and Zepto came in under fire, I think everybody saw that in recent newspapers, was on the food end, the Zepto food end. 10 minutes delivery means you're ordering some non-vegetarian food. That means it has been stored for a very long time. Zepto Cafe. So the guardrails need to come there, because if 10 minutes food delivery is happening, it's not made fresh. A lot of things is not fresh, right? Maybe something is fresh, they are just mixing it together, heating it up and sending it in 10 minutes, right? But this is where the FSSAI and the government needs to step in, right? That with this, health should not go for a toss, right, for the consumer. So the government needs to, there is no regulations currently, and you rightly pointed out when e-commerce came in, the government started making regulations around it. The government still is not making, so what is currently happening is that Zepto is thinking separately, the Blinkits of the world are thinking separately. There is no common ground where everybody is coming together, or the government is also coming together. This needs to be done, especially if on the pharmaceutical side and on the healthcare side, you definitely need those laws on quick commerce, right? The last mile is the most costly part of quick commerce. If you see the economic last, amongst all the mile, first mile, second mile, the last mile is the most costly. How do you make it more operationally efficient on the last mile? will actually make sure that you are more profitable going ahead. And your model will differ. Grofers started with a hyper-local model. They had to pivot from the hyper-local model to a inventory model. Only then they got profitable. Otherwise, till if you see, till 2021, early 2021, before they sold it to Blinkit, before it became Blinkit, they were unprofitable. They were totally unprofitable, and the reason was they were a hyper-local model. So models also matter in this industry, right? Very, very important thing, and guardrails need to be there. I certainly feel the last mile operational efficiency will make a lot of difference. And as the panel pointed out, this will change. Over a period of time, a lot of things is going to change inside the quick commerce industry. And we'll have to see some of the changes very closely and observe. But I also see a huge competition happening from some of the established players, like Flipkart is there now with Flipkart Minutes, right? Amazon is coming with Amazon Days. So that means this category now is going to experience more competition. And hence, everybody will fight for that order. For one order, everybody is going to fight. Currently, if you see, only Zepto has raised the bar of fighting. But now, with Flipkart and Amazon coming in, the fight is going to intensify. So when your fight intensifies, your order value is going to go down. It's going to clearly go down. Because now a customer has more options. If I am a loyal Blinkit customer and Amazon does something better in terms of experience, I will switch. There is no loyalties. I will switch to an Amazon. So your order value will definitely go down. If you want to get experience, go to another store, go to Zara outside to get experience. Can a Blinkit get an experience store where the customer can go and experience? Can Amazon get an experience store made where customer can get some experience before buying? Maybe later, I just go and see what all do you have, and maybe what I want in the near future, then I can order. Right? So some of these things are going to play out, and the order value certainly I feel is going to go down. So the efficiency is going to matter, and the last mile connectivity is going to matter. The number of drug stores are also going to matter. जैसे IT में हुआ था ना, then IT में क्या हुआ था? IT में हुआ था कि Accenture ने फिलीपींस में लॉन्च कर दिया है, HCL ने चेक रिपब्लिक में लॉन्च कर दिया है. अरे आपका स्ट्रैटेजी क्या है? Does it work for you or not? Are you going to go in the herds? Like everybody is doing, are you going to go the same way? Then you are going to realize, I should have had a hub in Coimbatore, I should have had a hub in Chennai later on. So it's all about your strategy. Don't see the second person and copy, right? And what has worked for Blinkit will not work for Amazon, right?
That was excellent. We had some very amazing takeaways from the session. Let me just quickly summarize what we had to say. I think all the panelists and I also agree that one thing that's constant is this channel flux that's happening. Channels are going to keep coming in, and you're going to find out that new channels keep emerging. And at different stages of this flux that's happening, consumer behavior will continue to evolve. Small niches of the consumer behavior, I believe, will become very different from other niches which are there. But then, broadly speaking, there is still space for almost every single person who's currently operating. As long as you're an efficient player who's working in the business and you're able to add true value to your consumer, I think retailing is still a very important business to be in. It is India's second largest contributor in terms of employment, third largest in terms of GDP. It's an amazing space to be in, right? Quick commerce is probably, one way to think about it is that it is probably a buzzword, because today everyone's talking about it, we are concerned and we are worried about it. But another way to think about it is it's a new way of doing things. And this way works in certain areas, which is what was rightly pointed out. The niches which exist in certain areas, such as those which are high in terms of population density and ability to pay, such as those that are there in the metros, the large cities of India which are developing, it is still possible for quick commerce to carve out a niche for itself. But then in the large parts of India where you still have, feasibility in terms of finances might not happen, quick commerce is not really going to see a lot of traction. This is going to be almost an impulse game which is played in very few places. But then, having said that, this is a place where new products can be launched. And today, many companies are able to get into strategic tie-ups with these quick commerce firms and use that to launch their product. And those launches today are getting eyeballs, and they're getting the right kind of eyeballs. And for anyone who's stepping into the world of business today, this is something that you should understand. And one of the key metrics that was pointed out by Sir was that there's a lot of ad revenue that's happening on quick commerce. That's not without a reason. That's because today people are actually going to these platforms and checking. We still are yet to understand about those orders that were not made and why they were not made. And once we understand that, I think a lot of questions will become very clear. Thank you everyone for being such a wonderful participating panel.
I want to end saying, my HSBC friend, I would love that credit cards get sold on this platform. And no wonder this is the future, right? As you rightly said. If you have a brand, if you have a startup, you need to be there inside quick commerce.
Regulatory, sir.
Regulatory is an issue. Guardrails are there.
Why not? It's kind of in a good side. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And using quick commerce since it's free.
Yeah, people are doing it. There are a lot of new fintechs, who are using a lot of AI models for a credit decisioning. They do it. We can't because we are very conservative. All traditional banks are very conservative that way. So we will talk about it. I think this is the theme of our panel as well. So we will talk about it.
Yes.
So the stage is now open for questions. You can ask your questions one by one. Yeah.
Thank you for the discussion, sir. My question is directly for Abhishek, sir. You told that the order history might be used as a credit score in the future. So I wanted to ask you in the similar lines, will this quick commerce be a singled out business model, or can it be integrated into a ecosystem which has multiple different products and services?
Obviously, it cannot and it will not exist as just one single channel. Over a period of time, it will morph into something which has, over a period of time, a large history of the consumer, purchase patterns of the consumer, and therefore for the marketing students, a good way to segment a customer. And as we are moving into personalization, the segment size is reducing to 1. So it is a good surrogate to arrive at a segmentation of the customer. It is a good data source for a lot of other companies to arrive at the credit worthiness of the customer. It is a good data source for other companies to get customers for them for their new business that they are launching into. Over a period of time, I think, and let me just combine quick commerce and e-commerce, the wealth of data that exists. And this wealth of data exists about real time, about the purchasing of the customers, and therefore it's a huge, the levers are simply infinite, that the amount of data and amount of things that you can do. So it is bound to happen, and therefore industry is going to put it together sooner or later. Yes. Sure. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So, my question is from the panel. The question is, previously, as sir you have said, previously the people were purchasing from the Kirana store. They are very loyal towards them. But still nowadays, the Kirana store have also updated themselves, and now they are giving the delivery services. But still, people are going for Zepto and all. Why? Why is it happening?
Because Kiranas were not able to crack the quick delivery method. You order with Kirana, it will come in half an hour to 45 minutes. That is number one. But in my experience, although it's very bad to use your own experience in any kind of arriving at any kind of hypothesis, but my experience shows that Kiranas have wisened up and now my Kirana delivers in 15 minutes. That is one part.
Okay.
Second part is there is no price leverage. Kirana used to sell at MRP. So even for products that operate at what is called as MOP, which is different from MRP. So let me give an example, in edible oils operate under MOP. Because the rate of the oils keep on fluctuating day on day, they print one MRP on the pack, and which is to be on safer side. So Fortune 1 liter oil, while the MOP is 150 rupees, the MRP will be 200 rupees because it needs to take care of, at no point the selling price can go above MRP. So they print an MRP a little higher stage. What Kirana used to do is to sell everything at an MRP. And therefore the price leverage was no longer existing and consumers got this price leverage in quick commerce. The third part is the kind of assortment that quick commerce can offer. Kiranas were not able to offer, but one thing that Kirana did very well, which quick commerce needs to replicate, is customize the assortment according to the catchment. So if you are residing in a higher catchment area or where more affluence level is there, you will see the Kirana stores having teas like a society and Taj Mahal. But if you stay on a lower affluence category, the Kiranas will have teas which will be in the lower end of the spectrum. The ability of Kirana to customize their merchandise according to the category of the customer, that is not available with quick commerce. They will get there. With dark stores, they will get there. And the last part, Kirana used to offer credit. That credit currently, while yes, it is available to credit cards, but credit ka jo, if you look from consumer psyche, if I am buying through credit card, which is essentially a credit, I don't feel special because that credit is available to everyone with a credit. But when buying through my Kirana store, Kirana says, "Arey aap ले जाइए, पैसे तो आते रहेंगे, जल्दी क्या?" Suddenly, I am being made feel special. That ability currently quick commerce is not available. Currently enhancing. We never know how it will evolve. And when we were in Holland, we had done a quick research. One of the, while Kirana operated at an MRP basis, वो क्या करता है? अगर आपने उससे कुछ खरीदा, टोटल किया, 1500 रुपये हुआ, लीजिए आप 1300 रुपये देंगे. वो अपने मार्जिन में ज़्यादा कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं कर रहा है, but suddenly I am made feel special. So all of these personal touches, and ultimately we have to realize we are humans selling to humans. That does not change, and that will never change. That feeling of emotions that Kirana could bring in, e-commerce has not been able to get it, and therefore Kirana thrived, and therefore Kirana will continue to thrive.
Thank you so much, sir.
I'll just add here. See, Kiranas will remain, and I'll tell you why. Given from an industry perspective, when you go to the industry, you'll realize आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कुछ पुराने लोग हैं, आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कुछ नए लोग हैं. नए लोग चेंज अडाप्ट कर लेते हैं, पुराने लोगों को चेंज करना मुश्किल होता है. And the HR folks know really well, right? So I'm talking about the Kirana guys who are old. Now the problem with them is, one, from a finance point of view, which he mentioned, right? Two, digital. They're not digital. You go to Digiyatra, we have installed in India, how much time? How many people do you find in Digiyatra line? No? Yeah. So, India to get that, so Kiranas will remain, right? And as he also pointed out, the experience is more important for the person relationship, especially for the old guys, your fathers, your forefathers. We'll always go to the Kirana shop.
Just to address the questions he asked, right? See, and I come from a social media company, right? So it's critical for me to say this. One of the big reasons why the younger generation is adopting to a Zepto, to a Blinkit, is also because of a critical secret sauce called recommendations engine, right? Every app has, all of these apps, right? Blinkit, Zepto, Instamart has a recommendations engine that knows what you're searching for on the platform, right? So the recommendations that come to you are so powerful that your impulse to click on it, add to cart, checkout is instantaneous, right? And that's something that, yes, of course, he's right when you say that if you want to, the look, the feel, the credit, all of that is there with the Kirana. But the secret sauce of a recommendation engine that is built on a very large data set that models what's your behavior and what you want to purchase can only come from what he said is digital. And that's why the adoption is so massive in the younger generation on this.
Good afternoon, esteemed guests. So my question is to Rohit sir and Harshit sir. It's about healthcare. So you had mentioned, Rohit sir has mentioned that it is not easy for healthcare to enter this quick commerce, as India is not that developed for it right now. But there was a recent ad from Apollo that they are introducing a 19-minute delivery initiative. So healthcare is a very sensitive industry. So the people will have questions on if the drugs that they receive through quick commerce is reliable, as there is a concern of temperature sensitivity as well as prescription-based drugs as well. So how will that get addressed when healthcare gets into quick commerce?
Very good question. See, in healthcare, trust is very important. I will go to a surgeon or a doctor for my surgery if I trust him, trust his hands, trust his surgery, right? And you are talking about Apollo 24/7. Apollo is a what? Apollo is a trusted brand, right? We have Apollo pharmacies across India. So that trust is very, very important, right, to establish. So Apollo did it and is successful in the 19-minute model because we trust Apollo. कि Apollo 24/7 से आ रहा है. But the question is, can a Blinkit add on to a healthcare prescription or a vaccine or a lactocalamine, right? All of these would need regulatory bodies, or they would need regulatory approvals, right? And they would need, as you rightly said, on the temperature sensitivity conditions. A vaccine is there, you have to store it under minus temperatures, not only temperature sensitive, you have to store and transport under ice pack conditions, right? So, do I trust Blinkit? Have they stored a vaccine properly? I don't think so. Yeah. You know, because vaccine you're going to put on your near and dear ones. In healthcare, a lot is about trust. So they have to earn that trust to get inside healthcare.
In fact, just to add to him, right, to his point, there was something called a Zepto pharmacy which was started. It was pulled out, again it's been pulled on, again it's been pulled out, right? The reason is, again, there's a grey area where the regulation lies. So the kind of medicines you can supply, the kind of medicines you can't. And that's why I think Apollo is also finding it tough to scale, but yes, Apollo will at least have a very strong trust. There is NetMeds, there is Pharmacy, there is 1mg. They're all trying this model, right? And probably they will bring in that trust aspect. Maybe they'll partner with one of these quick commerce, we don't know. But that's going to help you to scale the pharmacy business. Otherwise, yes, he's right. I mean, there's always that doubt whether these products, some OTC products I'm okay, say a Crocin I wouldn't mind, but then some serious drugs, vaccines, etc., am I being extremely careful? And that's where the brand will play a very big role in driving this growth of e-commerce.
So additionally, I have one more question. So it is easy that in tier 3 cities, it is possible to bring up a pharmacy in quick commerce, because the dark stores will have more number of medicines, all types of medicines, everything. But it is really hard to bring up all the medicines into tier 2 and tier 3 cities, or less than that, 4 and 5 other cities. So how will that be tackled?
So your question is tier 2, tier 3 is possible, but below that it's not possible.
Like the prescribed medicines, all medicines won't be available in all pharmacies. So it is only in few pharmacies such medicines are kept, and when we go into a pharmacy, they say that they can arrange the medicine in 2-3 days or anything. So it is very difficult to provide that through quick commerce, right?
Absolutely. See, pharmacies, and let me tell you a little bit about medicine since you're talking about medicine. They have a shelf life and an expiry. And all of you have been taught कि अगर drug expiry हो गया है तो नहीं लेने का है. Correct? And that is what happens for most of them. They cannot stock everything. They have to stock only whatever prescription I'm going to get from nearby doctors, which is called as retail chemist prescription audit. So they audit and then they keep, and slowly over a period of time, if there are new doctors coming inside that area, they would see, okay, what are the drugs they are prescribing? What am I getting? What prescription I got and it bounced, right? And so I have to store that as well. So it's not an easy thing. A lot of people say opening a pharmacy is very easy. It's very tough. It's one of the toughest things. And you do experience losses when you, but I would say you should look at tier 3 and tier 4 for opening up a pharmacy shop today, because today healthcare is all about tier 2, tier 3. Healthcare is not in tier 1 today. The growth in healthcare is all about tier 3. If you are thinking about your venture, I'm very sure all of you, some of you will become entrepreneurs in healthcare, I'm very sure. Think about tier 2, tier 3. Get something in tier 2. The opportunity is huge. Lot of industries. In insurance as well, in online platforms as well.
One of the largest cities that we do business is Kolhapur. Kolhapur is such a rich belt, and the kind of business that we get. It is a lot to do with the kind of distribution you have. If you have strong distributors, you will get good business. But that's the power of Tier 2 BAP. The number 3 market for us, if you have to state level, is Kerala. 11% of our business comes from that state. So huge. That's a huge market. That's how India is going to grow. Opportunities across the countries, across the country.
Hello. Yes. So good afternoon, sir. I wanted to ask you the last few things that you said. That with the increasing scrutiny on gig workers and their social security and potential laws against them, how do you see the quick commerce complying to this in the near future?
We need to make laws, as I mentioned, right? And you're talking about regulatory laws, right? So this industry has to intervene. When I say the government also has to intervene, so it has to be if I make a triangle, right? So the companies, the startup companies. Now you have Amazon also coming in, Flipkart also coming in, and you have the apex body, FICCI, CII, and some of the food regulatory bodies, right? Or the ministries of chemical. If I look at the chemical industry, who regulates the food, right? They also need to come in and make laws for the quick commerce. If that is not done, this industry, as I said, the news which we are reading on Zepto, for example, we will see more of this coming in the near future. So you are absolutely correct. It's high time we make laws, regulatory laws for this industry now.
So this
and you guys should why don't you make this is one opportunity you can take as students and as faculty, that you draft what should be the laws like, and you can send your recommendations.
Should leaders only wait for the regulations to come, or should they start themselves something?
The leaders should start, yeah. They should start.
They do start.
And they will start as well. I'm very sure they would be thinking as well.
Let me offer a contra view to it. Okay, this is very similar to what we call as a life insurance agents. There are more than 15 lakh life insurance agents in the country. More than that. In fact, LIC would have more than that. These life insurance agents are not employees of a company.
They're agents.
They are agents. But current regulations says that if an agent is licensed to one particular life insurance company, that person can work with only that life insurance company. So that way it is contracted. India में जुगाड़ सब चलता है वो in offer consumer a bouquet of choice, that person will take a license in his name, then another company in father's name, then brother's name, and customer will offer a bouquet. Very into. But coming back to the discussion over here, an industry which employs 15-20 lakhs of people already currently has very loose regulations around it, but it is thriving. Over a period of time, we have evolved a way of working. the regulations, the commissions that we pay to these agents are regulated. I cannot pay less than that, I cannot pay more than that. So there is where regulation has come in. But anything else as far as this thing, yes, there are regulations around mis-selling, there are regulations around bad practices. But that's where regulations are. So my point is, according to the industry, there is the level of regulatory intervention that needs to be done. The idea is, number one, they should not be exploited. Number two, they should thrive. And number three is, over a period of time, opportunity should be available for them to upscale. So a life insurance advisor today can tomorrow morph into a full financial services advisor and offer a lot of bouquet of financial products to consumers. So those opportunities should be available, but the kind of regulatory intervention should be dependent on the industry and how the industry works. There cannot be one blanket.
If you go to these heads of Linkit and everybody, they would say, "Ki, I don't want laws, let me grow." See, laws should not prevent you to grow. It should be helping you to grow. That's the only thing, and you guys can look at what should be the laws.
Do we see reclassifying gig workers as employees in the future?
Pardon?
Do we see reclassifying gig workers as employees in the future?
Gig workers as
Employees.
employees. Economics will not work.
So just to add a perspective, right, on the question you asked. See, one of the slides that he mentioned, the delivery costs have gone up, right? The reason for that is, and think about it, right? Like, who started quick commerce? Food delivery companies actually started quick commerce. Why? Because the peaks of delivery were only lunches and dinners and breakfast. So you had people who were not on your roll, but you have a large delivery fleet which is disposable to you, but you're not using them beyond those 2-3 hours of lunches, dinners and breakfast, right? Now what they did is, quick commerce is an always on game, right? Which means there's always somebody ordering something which they need in 10 minutes. So the utilization of that fleet happened in a much better manner. So they were able to utilize that same fleet, actually give them a much higher, take rates to the partners to actually utilize them throughout the day. Because whatever X they were making on 2-3 hours of dinner, 2-3 hours of breakfast and lunch, they were now able to utilize themselves much better throughout the day to actually get them to pay more. The second piece is that, look, in a capitalist scenario, this will always going to be competitive. We have 5 players in the industry who are already there, right? There is Swiggy, Zomato, Blinkit, Flipkart, Amazon, and there are a few more that will enter like Reliance. Now the demand for people to do last mile is only going to go up, which means their payout is also going to go up, right? Because there's more demand as well, right? Now, luckily we are also a country where there is enough amount of supply, right? So the economics has to work for that company to actually justify that, hey, can I bring this person on roll? At that scale, it becomes very, very hard to actually get so many people on your rolls, because then all the PNLs will be ready, right? They've literally broken even like last quarter, right? So suddenly if you have like 2 lakh more adding on to your PNLs, it's going to be a hard one to scale them. So I don't think it's going to happen, at least in the...
You wait for 6 months, you will get a news in the newspaper, I'm telling you now. Gig workers slashed. Yeah, as soon as competitions come in, you would not need so many gig workers. See, you have to look at PNL, please remember. PNL is the gospel, right? If your numbers don't work in the PNL, धंधा करने के लिए हो ना, right? You're there to do business, right? So there's no emotions in the business most of the time. You have to look at the PNL.
Yeah, with all the CSR aside, the ultimate objective of the business is to make money. There's nothing else. Yeah, because if you don't make money, you're not able to do anything else. CSR, good to do, ये सब कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे तब तक आप पैसा नहीं बनाओगे. The basic rule is पहले पैसा बनाओ बाकी चीजें.
So due to time constraints, we are ending the Q&A session today.
Respect and appreciation, I request Karthikeyan sir to kindly present Momentos to our esteemed panelists.
रोहन अपने कम्बिनेशन दिखा दिए ना? क्या? अपने कम्बिनेशन दिखा दिए ना? क्या दिखाइए?
अपने कम्युनिस्ट रंग दिखाइए ना।
It looks so weird. Now we are moving forward with our next panel, which is the HR panel. Employee expectations are shifting, and with them comes a new workplace trend, revenge quitting. Studies indicate that by 2025, nearly 28% of employees expect to see this phenomenon in their workplaces, where individuals leave jobs abruptly in response to perceived unfair treatment or dissatisfaction. What drives this behavior and how can organizations foster a culture that prioritizes retention, engagement and well-being? We look forward to gaining valuable insights from our esteemed guests today. I would request Professor Sumagna Bhombe to be on the stage. She is going to be the moderator for our panel. Professor Sumagna is a distinguished academic and policy expert with extensive experience in international relations, strategic affairs, and policy research. With a keen ability to navigate complex discussions, Professor brings depth, clarity, and insight to every conversation. As a moderator, she ensures engaging, well-structured, and thought-provoking discussions that foster meaningful dialogue. Ma'am, welcome to the panel.
So now I would like to invite the guests one by one. So now I would like to start with Mr. Yahya Rashid. It's an absolute honor to introduce our esteemed guest today. A visionary entrepreneurial leader with over 22 years of experience in IT, shared services and BPS industries. With a strong foundation in computer science and management, he has successfully led large-scale digital transformation initiatives, strategic alliances, and cloud-based platform business across global markets, a distinguished keynote speaker and a published thought leader in emerging technologies. Mr. Yahya had made a remarkable contribution to automation, customer experience, and operational excellence. His expertise in driving business growth, process efficiencies, and innovation makes him a true pioneer in the IT and IT-enabled service space. Please join me in welcoming Yahya, sir. We are privileged to have you with us. We are delighted to welcome Ms. Neha Jain, Associate Director, People at Bira 91. to Pinnacle 2025. With a strong background in human resource, talent management, and organizational development, Ms. Jane has played a pivotal role in building high-performing teams and fostering a culture of growth and innovation. Her expertise in strategic HR initiatives and people-centric leadership makes her a valuable contributor to discussions on evolving workplace trends. Ma'am, it's an honor to have you with us and we look forward to it. We are honored to welcome Mr. Arpane Omri, Associate Director, Human Resource at PepsiCo, to Pinnacle 2025. With extensive experience in HR strategy, talent management, and leadership development, Mr. Omri has been instrumental in shaping people-centric policies that drive organizational success. His deep understanding of workforce dynamics and experience in building high-performance teams makes him a key voice in today's evolving corporate landscape. Sir, it's a privilege to have you with us, and we eagerly look forward to your valuable insights.
We are honored to welcome Ms. Monica Gerd, Associate Director, Global HR Operations Support at Fresnisius to Pinnacle 2025. With over 2 decades of experience in human resources, she has played a pivotal role in driving HR transformation, talent management, and global operations. Her expertise spans across workforce strategy, process optimization, and fostering a people-centric corporate culture. Ma'am, it is a privilege to have you with us today, and we are eagerly looking forward to your valuable insights. Join us for an hour-long discussion where our HR leaders will break down the causes, implications, and strategies to address this emerging challenge. Stay tuned for 30 minutes Q&A session that will follow.
So, welcome you all once again. We really had an interesting panel discussion just before, which kind of very nicely placed the importance of quick commerce, how it's going to disrupt, and India emerging as a global power, right? When we are talking about that, at the heart of it, the people who are driving it, it's the workforce of the organizations. And the Indian demographic, it's kind of mixed, where people with different generations having different work expectations. On that note, we have this conundrum going around 90 hours versus 70 hours of work week, and I would want to understand your implications and get from you that what do you think is important, like what are some of your key messages that, what is important? Are we glorifying presentism or productivity? What is it exactly, if you could help us decode? We'll start with you, Mr. Rashid. Yeah.
Sure. Hello everyone, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be at this IM. It's always great to be amongst the brightest of minds and sharing my thoughts. It's a different kind of strategy, right? Every organization pursues differently. Now the impetus with the current challenges is, every organization is at an inflection point and they want to drive growth. But by driving growth alone doesn't mean that we operate in an extremely hard environment like 90 hours and so on. Eventually we are all human. We don't operate in a kind of a bot environment where bots operate 24/7, right? We humans definitely need to unwind ourselves. We have families and so on. So it's not shoved down to every organization. It is all driven by a certain requirement. For example, in certain days we get to kind of take calls, get into conference calls during a Sunday or a Saturday, and then a certain day we tend to stretch as well, about 12 hours. But that's not the normal, right? We operate in an autonomous way, and that's how every organization would tend to move, because the cost of poor healthcare will impact the working of an employee, right? We have to balance that both. It's not we continue to operate that way. So any organization that tends to balance the hybrid environment, where there's push, when there's a requirement, and then there's relaxation as well, I think that organization would thrive for long term?
Hi, good afternoon everyone. Lovely to be here. I just want to add to what my co-panelist here just said. I think the last few years have really created some attention towards some key terms like flexibility, right? Flexibility would be that the employee would be able to work in a space which helps them to be more productive. Flexibility also means, from the organization's perspective, that if required, the employee should also not be expected kind of a setup. Right? There will be days when the person is expected to work extra hours. So that flexibility is an arrangement which is two-sided. It's not a one-sided arrangement. The second term that's very important, and that is at the heart of what we really need to drive, and what the panel before also said, PNL, right? Productivity. As HR, one very important metric that we try to look at is productivity, and ensuring that we are, leading to certain business outcomes at the end of the day. Now, I think the whole conversation around 90 hours, 70 hours, 50 hours, I think it's a little too mundane. I think the real message that we should also just keep in mind is that one, the employee is looking for a sense of purpose in the work. Today's employee is a lot more purpose-driven. Today's employee is someone who will want to work in an organization where they feel that they are growing. And if, for growth, if someone is willing to work 90 hours and if they are growing with that, that works for them, let's do that. Let's applaud them for that. And if for someone balancing personal priorities is important, let's also create spaces for them. And I think that's where we would, really need to get to.
Thank you so much for inviting us over here, and it's a very, very pleasant Sunday morning. Thanks a lot to all the students to be here on a Sunday morning, right? The reason why I'm emphasizing on a Sunday morning is it's a Sunday. We are supposed to enjoy our weekend, but we are here, right? So what does this mean? I think the most important thing is, what is it that you are trying to prioritize? You are in an enterprise, you are in a business, you are prioritizing what your objectives are, what is it that we all are there to accomplish, right? An organization just does not thrive on just having people present within the organization. It's also about delivering the right kind of output and doing the right kind of work, the purpose for which we are over there. A lot of us, employees as well as employers, are strong purpose-driven folks, correct? So the entire debate, I kind of find it very, very frivolous as well. 70-hour week, 4-day week, or a 5-day week, or a 90-hour week. I mean, there are weeks where people just work for 20 hours, but the impact which is created is mammoth, right? So I think let's be very, very choiceful, and let's be very, very impactful, and be very purpose-driven. That is what the organization's notion is as well. And that's true for any ecosystem, be it the most established ecosystem or be it the very, very new startup ecosystem. So that's my only thought on this. For me, this is not even a debate.
Yeah.
It's a choice, and it's a prime objective that you are trying to accomplish.
So, a very good afternoon, everyone. I think it's already afternoon, and thanks for having us here. I'll try to, you all have shared your perspective. I'll just add on to that perspective. I think more than we talk about more working hours, it's very, very important that organizations start thinking about how we are measuring those productive hours, right? Whether anybody working for 10 hours a day, how many hours are productive is more important, because we talk a lot about working hours, we talk a lot about delivery, but how many managers are actually looking at, aligning their team with what is expected out of them and then measuring how much they deliver, because that's something which is missing. And I have worked in many organizations, I'm connected with a lot of HR and business leaders and everyone. I think what we should talk about is how manager can be productive enough to measure the productivity of their team, which is missing link here. And that I always focus upon that, it's manager, it's not organization. The culture is built by the managers in reality. And if they are able to drive the outcomes of productive hours, productivity out of their employees, I don't think this is even a matter of discussion that how many hours they should work on. So that's something which we need to focus on, organizations need to focus on, because in previous panel they also talk about that, everyone, business runs for the benefit and the revenue. I think if we are not able to deliver that, irrespective of working for 90 hours, it's useless for anyone to, even think about that. So we need to think about how to measure that. That's very important.
So from what I understand is that productivity is important, and where this very optimistic ideas coming in, like we should flexible model, we should focus on productivity. It doesn't matter whether you're working 90 hours, 70 hours or 50 hours. But there's also these challenges which it comes with, as Mr. Arpat said, presentism, and there's also a term buzzword that's coming up, it's productivity, right? Where you're faking. Now the problem is that when such signaling is happening, where the expectations are coming in that you have to put in that number of work hours, problems like this, presentism or productivity arises. So from a HR perspective, like some action points, we should talk about some of the action points, like what do a manager ideally in a workplace can do to kind of monitor, what are some of the good ways to kind of monitor it, that, to prevent such issues, because if more of the generations are trying to come up with problems like presentism, just being in the office and not putting it into hard work, then it might derail the purpose of an organization. So at that level, what do you think managers should do? We'll start with, yeah.
In an ideal environment, right? We spoke about PNL and all that in the previous panel. A manager is an HR manager. The line manager, right? He's an HR manager. He's a finance guy. He takes care of it like a business. That's how a manager is so important. People quit managers, not organization. That's how it is. A lot of new nomenclatures coming up, but that's the primary route. Because if a manager is biased, then people tend to lose out, and then the revenge quitting and all the new buzzwords keep happening, right? As a manager, I think the first stuff is, whether he has the team for the right capacity of work that he or she is doing. If the team is over capacity or under capacity, he has to add people and course correct it then and there, right? Because that's one of the areas. And two, whether people are coming there, there's a new thing, right? Work from office is happening, but people are coming there for coffee badging. They just come there and then buzz off after 15-20 minutes. See, when we come here, I think all the panelists spoke about the purpose, right? The ikigai, which the Japanese call about. I think if the purpose has to be aligned both from an organization should also get invested on the people, and the people also should be aligned to it, right? And a daily task sheet or a rolling up to a weekly activity listing in terms of what are their objectives. A manager should be, if manager is clueless, then all of this tends to get into. So having the right kind of roster of all the work that is supposed to be completed and what's the outcome that is expected, having the key one-to-one skip levels and pre-shift meetings. These kind of things though look tactical over a point of time, but believe you me, in the beginning of your career, it really galvanizes you, right? It might not be relevant for seasoned leaders. They don't need this. My manager, connects with me, in 2 months, 3 months, right? That's how it is. So it is since the Gen Zs we are talking about, having the right connect with your managers and having it discussed will put a lid to all the challenges, and the work gets more, democratized.
I think one point that I just want to add here is, as managers, there is something that we have a very, very, very important lever in our hands, which happens annually or every 6 months in every organization, that is called performance management, right? Let's have good, honest performance conversations. Let's have honest performance. Let's know what is it that our team is driving. Like, at Bira 91, we use OKRs, right? It's a very, very popular way of looking at performance these days. Is my team really on top of their OKRs? Am I having my monthly one-on-ones with them? In my one-on-ones, am I discussing just tactical routine work, or am I also discussing how do I help my team member really be productive, right? Is it something that's going to, like, do they need support outside of work? As long as I'm providing them with all the resources that I can, I have every right to demand an outcome, right? But at the same time, if I'm not having an honest performance conversation, I'm leaving it to the end of the 6-month period or at the end of the 1-year period, then this is exactly what happens. Because then you want people to, you will certainly one day have a knee-jerk reaction. Let's have people, roll up time sheets, right? We don't want to do that. But because managers don't know and are not on top of their teams, right? They're not on top of, and not literally, but metaphorically in terms of their work. Do we know what my team is really doing? Can I really say that if I have 3 members in my team, they're actually doing at least 6 hours of productivity? If that's there, then that's enough. And I mean, everything else will fall in place. Let's have good, honest performance conversations.
Yeah, adding on to what Neha just mentioned, I work in a complete virtual environment. For me, it's all productivity. Presentism is something that doesn't exist for me. So it's very, very important that a manager is present. He is available for the team members, because as what Sir mentioned, that it's also important that we connect regularly to the team members, right? So again, it should be not the over-connect and under-connections, right? So have a weekly connect with them, just a quick ones to check on, okay, yeah, everything is going good, they need any support or not, or what kind of support they can provide to them. Also coming back to Neha's point, feedback is very, very important. Regular, those conversations are very important, but are we giving the constructive feedbacks to them? Are we also supporting them where they are lacking? That as a manager, it's very, very important that you are identifying the gaps instead of changing the team member, changing their skills is very, very important. So focusing on what they need as part of their, growth, as part of their struggle. I always believe as a manager that, have a strength and weaknesses. It's very important for a manager to focus on the strength, polish that, and also at the same time, wherever you feel your team member is lacking behind, it's also important to support them so that they can improve on that part, and if that skill is really important for the organization. So awareness of the manager is very important about the team members. Connecting like in a 2-month, once in a 2-month will definitely not help, because then as a manager you are not adding back to the organization, because you don't know what your team members are doing, right? So it's very important that you are, even if you are not connecting, your team member knows that you are available, you are approachable, and they can easily reach out to you. So these are some of the very, very basic things. I mean, very, not very jargon words that is needed here. It's very basic tactics and basic, activities that is needed by the manager to ensure that your team is glued together and your team is also aligned with what they need to produce, what they need to deliver to the organization, because every relationship is like give and take. If you are not giving back to the organization, how can you expect to take it from it, right? So that's very important.
Right, so we're talking about presentism, right? Is there anyone in this room who can be coerced to sit in this particular discussion out of your unwillingness? No. Can we be forced to do something which we don't want to do for a long period of time on a sustained basis? Can we be? Maybe not. Now there's a difference between presentism and between showing up, right? Let's understand that difference principally. And when we talk about showing up is standing for what is important for you as a professional, what is important for your team, for your shared objectives that you're working on, and what's important for the organization, right? So the reason why people show up at work is not only to do their desk jobs, which can be done very well remotely if they are supposed to. Understand, when we are present in an office, we are also present in an ecosystem. We are also present in an ecosystem with a set of people. We are learning from everyone whom we work with. And a lot of learning, which we over a period of our careers have, is not the technical stuff which we end up learning in our curriculum or in our daily job. It's the learning which we get, seeing people, how is it that they are navigating these situations, how is it that they are working, and how is it that they have made their way over here. So be present for that learning, be present for that growth, right? And be present for that experiential learning. That is something which is very, very important. Productivity, more often than not, will never factor in how many hours you were present in the office. Productivity is always going to track what is it that you have accomplished. You were given A to Z, you have completed A to Z in this much period of time. It doesn't matter, one day you were away, one day you were in, or you were not in. So showing up and presentism are two different things, and it's very important that right early on in our career we start differentiating between the two. And showing up at the right time with the right people for the right purpose is very, very important. It's very important.
To add to what Arpan was just saying, and very important also, which is learning. While a lot of people, it's true that people leave because of their manager, they should also stay because they are learning, right? Just because you have one manager who is not good at managing you, look at whether you are learning or not. And also remember that you have certain resources in the organization. You have your HR business partner, right, who you should be reaching out to, who you should be talking to as well. Instead of just externalizing and saying that my manager is bad and so I need to leave, I should possibly first look at what am I doing, what all can I do, and if I'm really learning and growing in that place, should I give this place a second chance?
I think that's a very important note. I think what Arpan said and what you said possibly it diverged into two different conversations, two topics. So I'll first add to this. So because this is the Gen Z, we have this revenge quitting going up, 28%. If manager is bad, we're going to leave this. If there is no learning, we're going to leave. Now, the problem is with what do you think? At this point of time, I think HR plays a very strong role. Now, not everyone end up being on their first organization with a great manager, right? And sometimes I always feel that having a bad manager in the first organization is always good for your own learning, right? But having said that, this is just generation which is also driven by a lot of convenience, right? And very moral high. If they don't want it, right? So what do you think is so that they can help in somewhere reducing this revenge quitting? I think quitting was always there. We are just calling it as revenge quitting right now. What as HR practitioners you can say that if your manager has not been great and if you come to me, what are your options? What can an employee do? And we'll start with Neha. What do you think these people should do, this generation should do?
Okay, I'll just first say that managers are also people and they are also trying to figure it out. We've been in the HR fraternity for very long. We know that despite the number of years of experience people have, it's not just Gen Z. Everyone is trying to find their feet every day. We have bad days, we have bad meetings, and sometimes, because we're human, managers may also lash out at them, right? They may also, just out of the pressure and the stress of their work, be doing certain things. So what can HR do? What can organizations do? Because we have to, it's a situation which is messed up, right? It's not one person, it's not anything else. And then when we look at it as a situation, we can now solve a problem. Now, if the situation is messed up for the employee, definitely have conversations. There are a lot of AI tools. I know about one called Amber, which does these reach outs, and it does these quick engagement checks with employees, and it just people get, and it's a very interesting AI powered empathy chatbot. So it'll say, okay, how's your day going? And it'll just keep asking question after question, and based on your responses, it'll tailor the next question. So HR can leverage those tools because it's definitely not practical for an HRBP to just reach out to every single person for a cup of coffee. They would love to, right? But let's be practical again. The second is with managers. I think sometimes managers would, though manager is intentionally bad, generally. I'm just kind of putting the outliers aside because that's a different breed and that needs to be tackled separately. But when you have managers who are willing to correct, have conversations with them, train managers to be better managers, train employees to know what they should expect from their managers. We do these trainings called first manager training. I think it's important for employees also to know what the organization expects from their managers, so that it's a very clear, very transparent way of working as well. I think let's just show up every day and figure.
So I had a point over here, right? Because you spoke about bad managers. See, HR is not only human or people, okay? HR is business. And there's a reason why we are called as business partners, because it's very important. The reason why we stay in our jobs and survive in our jobs is because we understand business to some extent. So let's first start by defining what is a bad manager.
Yes.
There is no bad manager. There is no bad manager because if that person is there in that particular job, is delivering the business outcomes, is making a dent to the company's bottom line or top line, whatever is important to the organization, the person is supposed to be there. Now the person has additional responsibilities of leading some team members and all of them working toward a common objective. Right? Problem is, possibly not all of them are aligned well, or probably they are not communicating well with each other. What is it that I am expecting of you? What is it that you are expecting of me? Correct? And that is where that perception starts coming in, that this is a bad manager. More often than not, when you have a manager, there is always going to be a set of employees who love that manager, who hate that manager, who are absolutely neutral, right? Who are always on the lookout for a new job, irrespective whether everything is good or bad. Right? So let's build those bridges, right? And as HR, I also don't say it's HR's responsibility, because at the end of the day, see, HR is an enabler. HR is a business enabler, key business enabler, and HR is business. It's also manager responsibility. How is it that he or she wants to drive the team, right? So build those bridges, establish those conduits of communication, how you want to work along with your team, and set clear expectations, right? Now, if there are other aspects around being disrespectful towards people, being disrespectful towards individual, not being kind enough, right? Being abusive, I think, see, those are things which are taken very, very strongly, wherein there are certain behaviors with which you need to operate in an organization, right? You need to be respectful towards every single individual. Even if a person is a poor performer or is not doing what he or she is supposed to do, you cannot be disrespectful towards the individual because it's a job that the person is bad at, right? So there has to be a way to help person find the footing. If you cannot, then please let the person go out of the organization. Even as an HR, I am more than happy for having this person being concerned out of an organization. Because if it does not fit the business objectives, the person shouldn't be there, as simple as that. But let us not call bad managers, let us define what bad managers are, and let us differentiate between bad managers and bad behaviors, bad leadership skills, which can be harnessed. So to add to the point which Neha made, I think continue investing on leadership development. And when I say leadership development, not the jazzy courses, but leadership development, walking the talk, right? Basically inspiring behaviors within the organization, mutual respect for everyone, clear communication, and business is prime. This is what my business is, this is what my objective is, and all of us are collectively working towards this. I think a lot of that will solve the problem, because the junior most person also in the team will understand what am I working towards.
Maybe I'll add what Neha and Arpan just mentioned. So whenever we have a new manager, how many organizations are really investing on training those managers, because it's a different ball game once you are an individual contributor and you become manager, and at times within the same group it's very difficult to taking care of your team members' expectation. There are a lot of situations wherein they don't like you because you became their manager. How many organizations are investing on that? And that's something which needs a focus on. as I mentioned in my previous conversation, that there's always strength and weakness in every person. It's very important that we polish that person on how to be a good manager and take care of your team, because everything comes from that executive level people who are actually the baseline for the foundation for the organization. It's very important that managers are taking care of them clearly. And I also feel that it's very important that a manager wear different hats at different situations. At times you are a mentor, at the same time you also need to deliver results, at the same time you also need to be friend to your team member, at the other time your team member is going through such a problem that you might have to act as their family. So it's very important that the manager knows when to do that. And again, as you were talking about quitting and revenge quitting specifically, it doesn't come up suddenly, it boils up, it builds up, over the period of time. And if manager is having those regular connects, understanding their team members' status, understanding what they are doing good, it's like connection should not be, as I mentioned, there should be a regular connect. But if you are only talking about work, it's not helping, right, to understand your team's situation. You should spend 5 minutes at least to talk about how's your day going, how's everything going, everything all right at his end or not. So that these things are very basics but very important, for a manager to become a good manager, or the same thing if are not followed, that manager can become a bad manager as well. So.
Just adding up, for me an organization starts with its culture, right? You join a company, the culture is automatically, kind of contagious. It gets you into the right behaviors. Of course, we run into some toxic managers, who have a different set, taking credits, down, for personal reasons and so on. I think we within HR should have one thing, right? Sometimes, even if we are within business HR also, we get tally with the managers. Sometimes, and then we take the manager's words as the word, right? There's always a thing within HR. There's a saying, right? Don't be nice to anyone, but be fair to everyone, right? That's extremely important. As HR, we have to listen to both sides of the stories. If the culture is completely there, ensuring a very transparent culture, we should have different sets of avenues. Of course, there are a lot of AI bots and all of that, but human-centric conversations will get you to the right sense of what exactly is the problem. If there is going to be one toxic person, believe me, that cancer will spread across. He or she will get promoted, they'll go move, and then the larger organization gets impacted. Right? Very important to ensure that any such behaviors are stemmed and taken out. And as HR leaders, this is extremely important.
I think one very important thing which I wanted to bring to your attention is the fact that the importance of manager, very much important, because that's how I see shaping up the relationship between the workforce. Now, this generation, because we are trying to primarily focusing on this, when we are talking about Gen Zs, the preferences, there was time where incivility in organizations were normalized. If bad behaviors were there within the organization, it was normalized. There were times when mental health conversations were never made it to the office door, right? But this is again this generation which is very vocal about the mental health, which does not normalize this incivil behavior and rudeness. Now, one part of it where this, from Arpan and Neha, showing up to the organization regularly, but I also see this generation which is also very overwhelmed, and somehow we have seen so many incidents where what showing up had caused and mental health challenges. So at this point of it, where mental health has been prioritized so much, do you think that is also adding on to their employee experience within the work? We'll start with Arpan, yes?
No, of course, I think, see, well-being, be it mental well-being, be it physical well-being, it's very, very important, right? Otherwise, how would I expect myself to be performing at my potential or doing justice to whatever I'm doing, be it at home or be it at my workplace, right? Now, as organizations, it's very important that we focus on the well-being of our employees. We give them the right kind of tools, we give them the right kind of platforms on which they can seek the necessary help, seek the necessary assistance. And the most important part over here is also the culture of the organization, right? The culture of the organization is also built by the people of that organization. We might have our vision, mission, and the core cultural values, everything which has been spelled out, which is generally spelled out at the HQs, right? They are made in the boardroom, they are made basis surveys, fantastic, great images in the office floors. But when people come to work, if they are not able to demonstrate any of those, then it does not serve any purpose, right? So it's important, how is it that we can start emphasizing? And we do this as HR, that's a very, very important role which we play in our conversation. So when we are having those conversations, having those business conversations, we are also saying, okay, what we want to do is very important. How are we doing it? That's a very, very important conversation, right? How are we doing it? Okay, so for you, if this is the task which is to be accomplished, or this is my North Star, how are we doing it? Very simple example. If there are to be layoffs in the organization, right? Very common across the startup ecosystem, right? People lose their jobs overnight, they are being asked to leave. What's the difference between a good organization, between an organization which makes it easier and an organization which can leave you with such a bad impact and an experience? The difference is how are you doing it, right? How empathetically you are doing it, how practically you are doing it, and how transparently you are doing it. I think that is the difference, that is all the difference that is required to be made when we talk about building a positive work culture. Ensure transparency, ensure integrity, ensure good communication across all levels. Mental health, ensure that you are equipping your people with the right kind of support. Equip them with the right kind of support. Encourage them, drive a culture of inclusion, right? When I say inclusion, encourage them to bring their authentic selves and voice it out when it's required. Create a culture where people can feel free to voice out or seek help if they need. Most of the times people suffer because they don't want to seek help. They feel that agar main bol dunga to kya hoga?
Because the stigma and that is there.
So so be very practical about it. No, you have a problem, you need to seek help. This is a platform you have, this is a safe space, seek help. So create that culture of openness, create that culture wherein people can bring in your authentic self. And we focus a lot on doing that. In fact, all our organizations, I'm sure most of the good organizations focus a lot on ensuring that the culture is positive and people can be their authentic self. And equip them with the right kind of tools. Your responsibility is to not treat them or give them a solution. Your responsibility is to ensure that if they need help, they have help.
Adding on to you, as you mentioned about the layoffs, I came across one consultancy or the organization, I would say, who reaching out to other organizations, talking about that if you have any planned layoffs, we can support for their placement. And that's a unique concept, nice concept, like looking at current scenarios where organizations are, also laying off because of the transformation or many other reasons. It's always good to have these kind of, options to provide employees that, okay, while we are planning this is another option for you to get a quick placement. So,
yeah, I think just to add what another said. Mental health, a lot of people think that, they say, welcome to our family, a certain company, and say, we are all family, right? But, exactly the family, does it really mean that they are family? See, we witnessed about 5 years back a once-in-a-century pandemic, right? A lot of our loved ones lost, people came out, they lost their parents and so on. So I think the amount of mental pressure that the people were on, losing their loved ones on the one hand and then managing their loans and other set of challenges was really, needed something extra where some of the organizations went, that's where the amount of mental health importance came out, and then ensured that people were supported. They had psychological support and so on, right? Not just the thing. So organizations should also focus, when we talk about benefits, it's not about getting a fancy car or getting into credits and a credit card and then all of the other jazz, right? It's important that we have these sets of benefits, the healthcare benefits and what exactly it is. We see a lot of young people, losing out, right, while on work and so on. So it's important as well, the organization to bring up certain programs, some wellness programs within their 9 hours itself, right? Yoga sessions and so on, that helps them get the stress out, make them physically strong and connected. And that's the whole purpose today of work from office. People think that, why the hell should we all get into, we are staying in our, other cities and saving on rents and so on. See, you can be alone, secluded, but if you don't come to the office, you're missing a lot of those things, right? 3 days or 4 days or whatever hybrid thing. Being there, showing up and participating in all of this will ensure that you have a different perspective to it. Don't get stuck in the mundane.
I think just to add, we've really come a long way when it comes to mental health. When I joined the workplace, there was no focus on mental health, mental well-being, and it's so great to hear this. And that's how I look at it. I think the only way is forward, right? Because earlier we were not even talking about it. Now we've started talking about it, that it is something that people want, people expect. We have benefits programs now, where we, even in our conversations for our insurance renewals, we talk about, do you give us mental health benefits as well, right? So that's how things have started moving, and that's the positive. It will take time. It will not change, but in one day. But the thing is that the moment that conversation starts, things start moving ahead. And it's also important for us to keep that sense of confidentiality in our conversations very, very paramount. Mental health conversations are not to be taken lightly, and we should not just rub them off. One person's reaction to a stressor may be very different from another person's reaction to that. So let's keep that human element with us, that not every two people will have the same way of looking at things. So just because I find that stress enjoyable does not mean that my colleague also enjoys it. So and that awareness, not just for the employee who needs it, but for their team. And I think when we talk about showing up to work and that team, one thing that a lot of us probably look forward to are those informal catch-ups in the evening, right? Where we just blow off steam. Even if we were having the most intense of conflicts in the day, when you just catch up with your colleagues at the end of the day and you just wind down, that's also very important, and it's part of that whole workplace experience as well.
Maybe I'll add on to it that because I've handled benefits and health and wellness for many years in one of the big ITS organization. So back then, I'm talking about the pre-COVID era when everyone used to be present in office. Back then it was easy to, when you are having your health, insurance renewal and all, to negotiate on a yearly plan for conducting various, activities across. It needs a lot of commitment, not only from the organization, but also from the employees. As you mentioned, it's very important that they are present to, have those benefits in place. So in current scenario, it's very, very challenging for an organization to design something that works for all, because half of the population working from home, half of the population working from office. If you're planning for something that needs the person to present, it needs a kind of commitment. While I'm talking here right now, my India office is having a badminton tournament there back in Gurgaon. So they do conduct these kind of things, but are employees ready to come on a Sunday to have these kind of activities? Are they ready to make that commitment? Is also because organization is is ready to invest, but are you really taking benefit of those investment? Mental health, not only, I mean, organization can only provide you avenues to do that, support you. But how you are achieving that, or how you are taking benefit out of it, is also with the employees. And that commitment is very, very important. Also, speaking up. One thing that is important for organization to build up is speak up culture, as Arpan just mentioned. And that comes from top down, definitely, because employee need to have that trust with the organization, with the manager, with the HR with whom they are talking to, whether whatever I'm talking to is being actioned upon or not, is being taken care of or not. And if you are talking about it and there's no action, that is also a challenging thing. So there's a long way. We have come a long way, but there's also a long way to go, yet to go. Think about all those things and build up that culture for the employees to feel safe. That safe culture is really, really, really important for.
Just add one last. I think what Neha mentioned was super critical, right? On the confidentiality. When you discuss and trust the manager or your HR partner that you go through a certain situation, your condition, it shouldn't be that person is moved out of the team and to some lighter process in a challenging environment, and then that really doubles up the thing. It's important to meet the confidentiality, and people, managers should and above have to be invested in this training on sensitivity, so that they really take this very seriously. So.
No, thanks. Exactly a very similar point which I wanted to make. A lot of us here in the room, we are future team members, employees in organizations. Some of you will become managers as well. You will have larger teams as well. It's very important to be sensitive to these needs and ensure that there is confidentiality which is maintained. Because, and the reason is, see, you might probably not be able to do anything to solve for the problem, and which is not the expectation as well. And a lot of us are very, very inward focused, which is perfectly fine. Be focused on yourself and your own development. But be sensitive to the trouble that probably, or the pain that someone else is going through, and be less judgmental, or ensure that you are not colored with certain biases. It's very important. I mean, it doesn't come at a young stage, it doesn't come at an early stage of your career, but ask any of the successful leaders in any organization in the corporate world, or even in any field. People will always say, be very sensitive to the needs of the people whom you are working with. You might do something, you might not do something, but the bare minimum that you can do is be respectful and be sensitive.
A very important thing is that, which I have learned over the experience, that the sensitivity part, the empathy comes in the more exposed you are to diverse need, to diverse people. Now, interestingly, I'll bring in here this idea that now you would see that majority, like some of the most prominent companies like Meta, Google, McDonald's, Walmart, they're rolling out on their DEI initiatives. One reason is that because the legal and the policy landscape surrounding DEI is changing in the United States, right? Now, when something like this in a macro signaling that is happening, Arpan, what's your take on inclusion and creating psychologically space environment? How would you do that?
So what's happening in the US is happening. We all know what has happened in the first 4 weeks. There have been 36 executive orders which have been passed, right? And D&I was one of the orders again wherein there was an impact. But we also need to understand the larger context, right? Please understand the global context. While we are talking about DE&I is also very, very customized and relevant to the ecosystem and the geographies and the people with whom you are operating with, right? The ecosystem in US might be very different. I think let's look at the last, and that is actually the crux of all DE&I initiatives. Are you being equitable in your practices, in your policies? Are you trying to ensure that everyone has a playing field? I don't say a level playing field. The reason why I don't say a level playing field is because everyone is playing at a different level. So it has to be everyone is provided with the right playing field, right? And are we creating a place where everyone feels included, everyone feels being respected in the organization, everyone feels that they have a place where their voice can be heard, right? So that's not going to change. That's not going to change, because if we have to operate as an organization, if we have to operate as a country, as an ecosystem, then obviously we need to create an equitable and an inclusive work environment and an ecosystem where all of us can thrive and live. Correct? So that always remains. I'll tell you the practical impact, what might change. Practically what might change is, yeah, it's an executive order. So the way it is being reported out globally is going to change. We initially had targets. Now there is also some logic and some science behind why people set targets. Because when you set targets, you are making it objective, you have built in an ability to measure it, and then you are making people accountable for it, right? So it's only to build an accountability. But not setting targets or reporting targets, would it erode that accountability? No, not necessarily. So that always has to remain, right? So I think, see, what's happening at a geography level, what is important for India, and let us also understand why it's important for India. More than 40% of your STEM talent which is passing out is women, right? You have 70% of your population, which close to 70% of your population, which is getting educated, but are probably not from a very, very privileged background. They're essentially, majority of them are from underserved communities, right? For a nation to grow and for a nation to develop, is it even practical for us to have an executive order of that sort? That we will not induct a particular gender, or we will not induct a particular class or a particular section of the strata into our initiatives? No, it is not practically doable, right? So what's relevant for our country, what's relevant for the respective geographies will continue happening. It might happen more organically. We might not blow our trumpet around it, that this is what we have accomplished, this is what we have accomplished. But as far as equity and inclusion is concerned, that's not going to change. The core principles are going to remain the same. We might not report out yearly targets. We will not report out that by 2027 I will be doing this. No. But I will still have a timeline that over a period of next 3 years, this is what I am trying to accomplish at a high level. So I think equity and inclusion never changes. Very good example. I mean, I want to quote this example. It's a very nice example. Why DEI is important. A few years back, Indian Railways had come up with a childbirth option in lower seats. We all must have read that, and it was a very interesting thing they had done, right? But they realized, in whichever train they had piloted this, mothers were very uncomfortable putting their babies on their childbirth, which was exactly adjacent to the main berth. And no one could figure out why. And then they asked about the committee who brought in this and who suggested this change. And then they realized there were only males in that particular committee. Yeah. Nothing wrong with it, right? Very good solution. But why is it not being used? No. The problem is the childbirth is on the outside. Anything which falls from the top is going to hurt the baby. Babies are not kept in the open where it's open at the top, right? It's a safety hazard which only a mother could understand. And that's why diversity is important. And that's the reason why diversity is important in organizations. Yeah. Simple FMCG, right? Large packs. I mean, I'm talking about it from experience, right? Bottle cartons, right? If 70% of your shoppers are women, you expect them to actually load it up on their shoulders and walk away, or do you expect easy handling of your packages? That's why diversity is important. So those things will not change. How we report it out will continue to change.
So from what you said is that it seems that even though the targets would, not the reporting angle of it might change, but there's nothing that people should be worried about in terms of the DEI and all of that. Neha, on your take on it?
I just want to add one thing. So last year, so there's a very, very, very well-renowned body called the SHRM, right? And SHRM removed equity from its charter last year. So does the focus on DEI change because SHRM has removed it? No. Organizations that will choose to focus on DEI will continue to do that. Organizations that prioritize and again, it comes from, so some companies follow a cookie cutter approach that, hey, company X, Y, Z are doing it, let me just do it, right? Probably DEI is at risk in those organizations. If we are being first principles, if we understand why it's important, right, then I don't see any reason for us to be concerned about DEI not having its moment. Continue.
Without doing anything as well, we are a nation which is represented, 50% of our population is a particular gender. Then we also have recognition of the third gender, right? So even if you don't do anything and organically you move with your initiatives, you are still going to always have a very, very strong representation.
Interesting, I'll kind of, but still when we are talking about DEI, that's one thing. I think most of the conversations which I'm trying to understand, it's like, showing up and the implications of it and how it is important for the Gen Z to build those experiential learning and all of that. But even though what you are saying that DEI is going to be there, it's not going to affect, but still the data in terms of the leadership representation where women are not, it's still very divided, right? One of the reasons that women preferred remote working because they felt they were psychologically safe and they had faced fewer microaggressions and they could manage the flexibility between their career and now I also see the repercussions of something like a showing up and its implication on the women and as again data, most of women are quitting the corporates, right? So how do you, this is a problem that is going and if you were to look through the lens of DEI, Mr. Rashid, I've come to you. What is your quick way to fix this?
I think, I have a completely different thing, right? So today, the entire growth trajectory is led by women. Now, when Roshni Nada took over the chairperson of HCL, she said that all the leadership had an E1, L1, L2 have to be women, and we are replacing. See, it's important that the culture is not going to change. The amount of with women leaders, there's a lot of advantage that they come in. There's a different perspective that they bring in, and so on. So the entire industry, be it tech, be it other industries also seem to be looking at it more. It's not going to change. There are certain flexibilities given to our women colleagues in certain situations. That is given to ensure that they are completely included in the overall growth and well-being of it. And especially on certain areas, I think the organizations have really invested into these kind of feedbacks, whichever, there are large women councils which are very, very powerful now within organizations. They take all of these feedback and then they pass it on, and that gets discussed even at the board level, right? So this is not going to change. A ruling in a certain country might affect certain areas, but within the larger ecosystem within India, I think that's not going to change.
I think that's. I think one thing is the DEI, and then quickly I'm going to kind of shift because we'll try to wrap up and for this generation, like sitting right in front of you to navigate AI, because you all have led AI transformation and layoffs, fears, job displacement. What should they do to navigate this crisis? Because again, job displacement is going to have some impact. Short term, we see how companies have started rationalizing it based on performance cuts. So what is your suggestions to this generation? How do they navigate this transition? We'll start with Dr. Monica.
Maybe my take on this is that it's very important that you upskill yourself, as and when you understand. It's very important you understand the market, you understand how the market is moving, you understand what is the upcoming skill needs, and then you keep on upskilling yourself. That's very, very important to navigate through these changes. Because I've been part of organizations wherein I joined them when we were working on the basic Excels, and then we move on to the tool, and then we further automated a lot of things, and I've seen that journey. And during that journey, if you are upgrading yourself, you can sustain. If you are not upgrading yourself, then obviously somebody else will take over you. So it's very important. It's not today we have AI, tomorrow anything else will come. It's very important that you understand just doing, taking an MBA degree and moving out into the market and start doing job will not be enough. It's very, very important that you keep on learning new skills. I can share one of my example. There was a time when I was offered a position for project manager, and then I had always been a HR manager, and then if I had to take the project management position, I have to do a justice to it. I did attempt a course into project management, and that was important for me to do a good job before I take it up. So I think these kind of situations will come along this generation as well, and especially now when things are changing with every day, it's very, very important to keep your pace up with the moving market and moving requirement.
From an AI perspective, I think I always see this in most of the conferences, right? AI has lived for almost about 6-7 decades, right? We grew up, at least my generation, we grew up watching Giant Robert and other stuff. So that's how old I am. So it is all there. Every cycle, there's a technological shift that happens. Mainframes to other things. We had social media. SMAC was the thing in 2010. Social media, predictive analytics, and cloud. What happened to all of that? It's still there. All of this will go on. The important thing is develop a curiosity mindset, a growth mindset, where you look at opportunities, right? If I see people today thinking that I'm an HR, I don't have to talk about business. You have to learn business, right? If you're going to support, a hospital, a life sciences healthcare, or a manufacturing, or a high-tech industry, or an aerospace industry, you should know what Boeing is doing today. What is the amount of growth that they are going to bring in? That's how the projections that you will be feeding in. That's the level of people that you will be hiring. That's the level of people that you will be engaging. So all of that needs to be understood. Artificial intelligence, there are multiple tools within HR that are today available, right from hire to retire kind of a thing. You have different tools to leverage. Without knowing something is going to handicap, learn those tools, understand how to leverage it. HR will augment, will not eliminate roles. Remember that. AI is not here to eliminate roles. We'll augment it and leverage as much as possible to make you more productive. Just imagine, how it was in the pre-computer revolution, right? The IT revolution that happened in the 80s. My dad was so worried. He was working in bank. The post offices thought that after email they'll wind up. See, did they wind up? No. Everything will be going through the transformation, and eventually everybody will. There's a resistance to change right now. There's a lot of buzzwords. There's a lot of headlines that are saying so and so. Just defer yourself from all of these. Focus on your curiosity. See what exactly will get you there. And I think just earning a degree will not. Earning a skill will definitely keep you relevant within the industry.
Earning a skill is very important, and the focus has to be on job enrichment, right? So yes, the repetitive parts of the job may end up getting outsourced to AI, but there will be certain parts of the role that will also require you to pay attention to that instead. Again, I'll just talk about certain experiences that I've had with so we implemented an AI engine within the HR function for in 2 organizations. I've seen that happening, and initially the HR team was extremely nervous and apprehensive that if people are going to reach out to this chatbot instead, what will happen to my job? They'll not recognize me. But then they started using that, like 8 o'clock in the morning. They used to get this report, and people started. They actually realized people would come and say, "Oh, HR is coming and talking to me." Because sometimes, given the number of people that we have in our spans, because we also look at spanning, right? Each one HR VP to 250 people, one HR VP to 200 people, and all of those metrics. So it's not possible for that one HR VP to reach out to so many people. So it helps them be a little bit more focused and really speak about what are their stressors, what are their concerns, what is going to help them do better in their job. So again, it's about not being too concerned, but instead looking at the opportunity that situation is going to present.
So I'll give very practical advice to all you students over here, right? And this is out of experience as well as what you will observe once you go into the organizations. Or even if you start your own setup or you become a startup founder or something like that, right? Very important to stay relevant. Stay relevant in whatever you do. Just taking some inspiration from the previous panel discussion, right? Evolving consumer behavior. Who's helping them evolve their behavior? The companies are nudging them to evolve their behaviors. As consumers' behavior starts evolving, companies start evolving further, right? Because I have to start addressing those behavioral requirements. It's the same. Who are these consumers? These consumers are employees in organizations, right? So evolving employee behaviors, right? What are the headwinds and the tailwinds which are impacting your industry? Please ensure right from an early stage in your career, irrespective of your specialization, read analyst calls, read analyst reports, understand what is the business in which your organization is operating. Your organization is not very important, the larger business ecosystem is more important. So please understand that, right? Stay very, very relevant. Stay relevant to what can impact, and that is where the actual innovation comes in. That is exactly where you start creating an impact for yourself on your careers as well. So stay relevant, continue learning, very, very important, continue learning. If that means going to a B school and studying something after 20 years of working somewhere, perfectly fine to do that. It might not teach you anything new, but what it might give you is a very, very different perspective, because people who are teaching you are not the same who were teaching you earlier 20 years back, right? They are now the new generation who is actually talking to you. So you are also learning a lot, right? Spend time with people who have some more experience. They might not give you the hard skills which are important, but they will help you understand what are the very, very important skills important for you to navigate in your career. So please evolve, learn, interact with people, right? And ensure that you gain an in-depth business understanding. Be business savvy. More importantly, be business savvy.
I had a quick one. Soft skills are very, very important. Nowadays, the more collaborative you are, the more, you work, reach out to people, you are more empathetic. I think these skills are also very important. Learn these skills because that will take you a long way. So I always believe, whenever I hire anyone, I definitely look for these skills first, because other skills can be built up, we can teach that. But having those soft skills is very, very important. So that should be also your focus.
Thank you, ma'am. So now the panel is open for questions. We will take 3 to 4 questions. Okay. So first from yeah.
Hello, my question is to Ms. Neha. So, you mentioned that your organization does a semi-annual review, performance review. So, how do you manage the how do you ensure that there is a holistic performance management system or a total reward program? Like the expectations of a younger workforce are like better mental health, health programs, better flexible work timings, and better performance, like a holistic performance management. Not just the project, focused on project, but also on team collaboration, on learning and development. So that is the expectation that
this is actually something that Veera, interestingly changed the last year. And also one reason why I actually came back to Veera. I was with Veera for 5 years, had a hiatus, and then boomeranged back to the organization to, really lead the whole performance management redesign altogether. So something very, very close to me as well. I think one area where performance management really needs to work is driving that focus on performance conversations, right? So we invested in a system. We had an annual review system. We realized very quickly that the video was done as a checkbox. So people would do it, people would not do it, because there were no outcomes associated with it. So the moment you actually made it a 6-monthly thing, the focus changed. And now I've seen 2 cycles. So, that focus on ensuring that your goals and targets are objective, there is, and in an organization and in an industry like ours, we're a startup. We'll be turning 10 this month, and 10 years this month. And what we've realized is that there is just so much of volatility in our, in the way our plans change, because we want to have aspirational goals, but we also want to find ways to reward people. And we also want to make sure that our goals are stretch enough for people to, also help us grow as an organization. Now, when you have a system to, first of all, have those goals there, right? Ensuring that the goal is documented or targets are, we have a very clear top-down approach. So we've linked it to our annual business plan. Ensuring that it is linked to the business, ensuring that people who are working for the business and who are ensuring that the business is growing are also rewarded, because when you're making it objective, I mean, we've integrated achievement also. So we know that when we have our numbers, they're completely coming not from Neha, the employee, but there is a system which is tracking her numbers as well. So then the focus on the conversation becomes very simple. Because then it's like, hey, this was your work. And when I'm having that discussion with my manager, I'm talking about, these are the things that I struggle with. And, this is what happened. And this is why I probably overachieved or underachieved. And so that gray area, it reduces. That helps me have better, drive better rewards for the team, right? Drive more holistic conversations. Our intention actually is to make that more monthly and then do the rewards on a 6-monthly basis. Does that answer your question, I hopefully?
Thank you, ma'am. Next question.
Hello, so it's an honor to have you all here at IIM Sirmaur, and it was really an insightful session for all of us. So my question is to Arpan sir. So you mentioned that there is a difference between presentism and showing up, and differentiating between the two is very important. And you know that many of us are going to start with our careers in a few months. So can you please tell us that how can we build up and develop those skills to collaborate and stay connected within the teams, like within our organization? And in your opinion, what matters the most, like capability or co-capability? Capability or co-capability?
That's a nice term, capability. All right. No, thanks for the question, and it has been great interacting with you guys as well. So let me give you an example, right? I mean, you're part of a global organization, and you have a very senior executive council leader who is visiting you, and the person is holding a town hall for the entire team. You are one among the 150 employees, and the town hall is happening in person at the office. Your senior leaders are there. Obviously, they need to be there, right? They're directly reporting into this person. Would it be important for someone who has joined in fresh into the organization to be present there?
I believe yes.
Why would it be so?
So even if the person is there, like for example, I am here, so I am getting so my presence in this room ensures that I am getting the tips, the insightful tips. So gathering the experience, learning and getting the experience. So from that aspect, I believe yes.
You might not understand everything what the person is talking, right? Which is absolutely fine. You might not get a complete business experience. That's the difference between showing up and being done, right? Showing up is ensuring that you are part of that journey, you're present over there, so that you're able to absorb and imbibe the most important and relevant things for you to be better at your job, for you to be a better professional, right? No one is going to take an attendance over here that out of the 150 team members who are supposed to be there are 10 team members who are not present. No one is going to do that attendance, right? So that's presentism. That's present. So that's essentially the difference between showing up and being present. Showing up for your team. So let me also give this to an example, right? I mean, you have a team meeting. You have an important team meeting and an objective review team meeting which is happening. The entire team is in the office. They are there together and you are having that review. Would someone be happy just being a Zoom or a team style on the screen, or would the person actually want to be there involved in that meeting in person over there and having that discussion? right? That's again the difference between showing up and being present. So showing up is also ensuring that you are there, part of that experience, understanding those things, and you have the ability to reflect on those things fruitfully for yourself. That's essentially the difference. No one is going to take attendance in office. That you were not present, you were present. So as an early career talent, whenever you get into an organization, bring out that curiosity that you want to learn about the organization, you want to know about the organization, you want to know about the most important people in the talk about people in the organization. If you have a global visit happening, the global leader has absolutely no idea who you are, but your presence there ensures that you get to learn a lot from that entire interaction. Hope I've answered some.
Okay, so the next question will be the last one. Okay.
Good afternoon, panelists. I'm Ritika. Neha ma'am, this question is for you. So you started your journey with Time and today you're with Bira. So what is the one trend HR that you've seen consistent with the change generations?
I don't know about generations, but I think the basics of HR have always been common, right? Which is about just, being there and not sticking to your, HR is a function which is known for making job descriptions, but not getting too attached to your job description and knowing that, your core job description actually is just to listen, right? As long as you're listening to what's going around, what's going on, I think your job is done. And then you execute.
Okay, so now we are coming to an end.
Sorry, just one last question. So, Arpan sir, you spoke about the regulatory divergence that in US right now. So, my question is, will this location-based disparities, will this create location-based disparities in career opportunities for underrepresented groups?
Too soon to answer. Possibly yes, possibly no. Disparities for underrepresented groups, possible. The representation of underrepresented groups is also very different across global geographies, right? When you're talking about America, you're talking significantly about the Black community, you're talking about the Hispanic community, you're also talking about LGBTQ, which is a very strong representation. In India, it might be primarily gender focused, right? So possibly yes, but going back, if we stick to those two things of E and I, right, equity and inclusion, the key principles, disparity comes in when there is no equity in your policies, in your principles and your culture framework, right? So if you have stuck to your equities and inclusion, you will never really reach a stage wherein you will have some sort of a disparity, because you will organically do a lot of things which are relevant to DE&I, which are relevant to diversity of underrepresented groups, right? So, too soon to answer whether on paper, on numbers, yes, no, but principally, I don't think.
Before you guys, you had policies to do a certain campaign or something like that. But now it's not there. So, it has to come inherently from within, right? From within your organization.
Why do I do a campaign? I do a campaign to get more traction on something.
Right.
Right? But I can still do a campaign without attaching any targets to it, right? It doesn't stop me from doing a campaign, or it doesn't stop me from doing that particular initiative within the organization. I can still have an inclusion drive, I can still have an awareness session about PWDs, about persons with disabilities, right? I can still have an awareness session around microaggressions at workplace. It doesn't stop me from doing that, correct?
Also, one last question. Has this impacted the culture in your organization? Has this impacted the culture of those people, of underrepresented people that now, what is the
Culture is a slow brewing process. Everyone perceives it differently. It doesn't change overnight, so it hasn't changed in the last 1 month. It doesn't change like that, and that's what I'm saying. Culture is very inherent to the organization, to the people who are part of it. So irrespective of the global guidance or the directives or the executive orders, they don't necessarily influence the culture, they only influence the outcomes.
Okay, so thank you, sir. Your insights will help all our management students to tackle their work, problems they face in their workplace. So, as we come to the close of this insightful HR panel, I would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panelists. Your expertise, valuable insights, and engaging discussions have truly enriched this session, providing us with thought-provoking perspectives. As a token of our respect and appreciation, I request Professor Sumatna Bhaumik to kindly present Momentos to Yahya Rashid sir, Neha Jain ma'am, Arpan Umre sir, and Monica Das. Let's express our appreciation with a big round of applause. Thank you all. Now we will have our lunch break. After that, the third panel will proceed. The third panel will start from 3:30. And I request all students to remain seated for 5 minutes.